Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of Council for June 2nd, 2021. We had a slight delay, but we are opening the meeting at 7:02 p.m. And at this time, I would like to request a moment of silence for the 215 lost children whose remains were found at the residential school at Kamloops. It's definitely a tragic thing, and I know it's hitting a lot of people in the various communities pretty hard. So if we could have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And just for further notice to the public at home and to the councillors who are at home, one of our colleagues from Siksika Council, Councillor Ruben Breaker, has traveled to Kamloops to be a part of the various events that are there and to support his fellow councillors from that nation in Kamloops. We hope to do, with the help of our trusty communications guru, Jeff, we hope to do a Facebook Live next week with Ruben Breaker and possibly another elder who will be joining us to have a little discussion, a question and answer session on some things that have been happening lately. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda, and so I'm asking councillors if there are any emergent items tonight. Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, I would just like to suggest that we remove the prohibited business bylaw from this week and postpone it until the next council meeting.
That's item 12.4?
I believe so, yeah.
Administration, Mr. Legore, do we need to have a motion on that or anything?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor, if we can have a motion to defer to June 16th, please.
Thank you. Councillor Montgomery, could you make that motion?
Certainly, I will move that we postpone item 12.4, the prohibited business bylaw, until the June 16th regular council meeting.
Thank you. And now that we have a motion on the floor, is there discussion on that motion?
Your Worship.
Councillor Peterson and then Councillor Sobel.
Oh, sorry. I apologize, Your Worship. I was just wondering what the reason was, Your Worship.
Councillor Montgomery, do you have a reason that you'd like to bring forward?
Yeah, it seems like there was possibly miscommunication between myself and at least administration regarding some changes that I would like, or at least some more information that I wanted brought forward, and then some amendments that I wanted reviewed by council, and those aren't prepared at this point. So I think it would be better to postpone it.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Peterson? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. So this matter has been before council for about 16 months now. It's gone through a number of council discussions and public feedback sessions, both in person and through written comment. Our last meeting on this matter was at our Committee of the Whole meeting on April 14th of this year. Council was made aware that this matter would be before us today for a second reading and perhaps third reading as well. I appreciate that the April 14th discussion involves some suggestions for amendments. And it's my belief that these proposed amendments should have been presented by councillors for discussion and decision tonight. What happened, however, was a councillor questioning this morning as to why these suggested amendments were not included in today's agenda. This, in spite of the fact that administration was quite clear on April 14th that council, and council alone, had the ability to move any amendments at second reading. Council had 6 weeks to prepare amendments, and it greatly concerns me that this matter will once again be adjourned. I feel we are losing sight of what this bylaw's purpose is, which is to prevent conversion therapy being used as a business. And I cannot support adjourning or postponing this matter yet again. Thank you.
Any other discussion points? Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, Councillor Sobel, are you concerned that if we delay this for 2 weeks, that possibly there will be activity by a business that would be prohibited by this bylaw?
I don't have an answer to that. What I do have an answer for, though, is that this matter is before us today for a reason, and that was to deal with it. So obviously, our agenda was set up with this motion in mind, with this item in mind, and something probably did not make it onto our agenda because this was on it. So to put it off to another meeting, because we didn't do our job is to me irresponsible. It's on today's agenda.
Thank you very much, Councillor
Excuse
Sobel.
me, I'm not finished talking, sir.
Thank you.
Councillor
Thank
Montgomery.
you. I've heard your answer. Thank you.
Councillor Montgomery, you need to let him finish his
Oh,
statement.
I'm just reclaiming my time. Thank you. So the other issue that I have is that...
Sorry,
Excuse me, point of order.
Councillor Montgomery, what did you say?
Oh, I'm just reclaiming my time. Thank you. It's my turn to speak, I believe, and I had asked Councillor Sobel a question. He answered the question. I'd like to continue on.
Point of order, Your Worship.
I'm going to allow him to finish his statement. I don't believe that we should be stepping over each other, cutting each other off when we're talking. I think it's a bad precedent to set, and I really think if he's in the process of answering your question, you should let him finish, and then you can respond.
It was a yes or no question.
So I'm going to let him finish his sentences, and then you can speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. As I was saying, Your Worship, this is 16 months old at this point, and it's time to move on with this. It's on today's agenda. It's here for a reason, and my position is that we should continue on with it as part of this agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you. So I believe it'd be inappropriate actually to move forward at this time, simply because, there was miscommunication on who should be bringing forward these amendments. And I'll own any mistakes that I made in this regard. However, I did ask administration to bring forward other definitions of conversion therapy, and they didn't do that. So that was something that I asked. I'm not sure that I should have to bring forward other definitions. That wasn't communicated to me anyways. And so I think it'd be inappropriate to move forward without all the information we have available. And that's why I'm asking to postpone it. Okay. I agree. It's been on our table for a long time. 2 more weeks is not going to do any harm.
Okay, thank you for that. I think administration has a comment.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I want to make it clear that administration did not miss on bringing any amendments forward. There was no amendments made at the Committee of the Whole meeting. There was suggestions that there could be amendments to this bylaw, and it was stated by the mayor that they could be discussed at this meeting. So it's not up to administration to bring the amendments forward unless we receive direction from council, and we did not receive any direction. There was ideas and suggestions mentioned, but there was no direction given. We have identified those items by listening to the audio of the meeting, and we provided that to council today. But if council wants those as amendments, they need to make the motion to amend the bylaw. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I had asked administration for information for this bylaw. They have not provided that information. It has nothing to do with amendments. This has to do with asking for more information on the bylaw, and they just didn't provide it. So I'm unable to move forward without that information.
All right, thank you.
So I guess it's my mistake if that's what it has to be, but I don't feel comfortable moving forward without more information.
Okay, thank you. Deborah, can I just confirm with you, I'm still getting used to this system. It's lit up that Terry Cox.
No, that's me. I'm
Oh,
just sitting under.
oh, you're using.
Because I just.
Okay,
wanted-
sorry. My
That's all right.
apologies.
Yeah, yeah.
Councillor Bauer, I think I saw your hand at one point. Did you have a few words?
Your Worship, I was just going to chime in and say that even, the federal government is having difficulty with this. I myself am struggling with it in light of the recent controversy and because of the people that have come to us. If Councillor Montgomery has a valid reason for waiting 2 weeks, I don't see why we wouldn't at this point, especially in light, I don't know if we have Councillor Cox and Councillor Corbeil tonight, but I think it would be, especially on something so important to this community, I think it would be a good idea to suspend this and perhaps look at it when all of council can have a really good discussion on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I call the vote, I'd just like to encourage us all to use some decorum when we carry on for the rest of the evening tonight. As far as the motion on the floor, I do see some merits to it. I want us to make the best decision we can. And if we're missing some councillors at this point, and there were some things that were lost in the shuffle, and anything that can ensure that we do the best possible bylaw for our town, I would be in favor of. So that's just my comments on the issue. Are there any further comments on this motion that we have in front of us? Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to say that administration has done a stellar job in the 16 months that they've been on this. This is a much better bylaw than what was started with. I am extremely grateful for all of the resources brought forward by this administration regarding this bylaw. And of course, there's endless amounts of information through the Calgary bylaw, the Fort McMurray bylaw, the Edmonton bylaw, and those have all been before us, Your Worship. And so I'm really proud of the fact that this community has, and this council, and particularly this administration, has given every opportunity for this discussion. I'm not in favor of the motion, but I will certainly accede to the wishes of the majority, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, and I would just like to echo that, even though I'm having some second thoughts, and I do appreciate that we might need a little more time. 2 weeks is not a great deal of time, and I definitely don't want administration to ever have the thoughts that I've doubted their motives or their actions or their hard work over the last 16 months. I just want to make sure we have the best bylaw going forward. So if there are no other comments, I will call the question. All in favor of the motion put forward by Councillor Montgomery? Opposed? So the motion is carried, and it'll be brought back to us on June 16th. Are there any items, again, farther on, are there any more items that are emergent tonight as far as council is concerned? And seeing none, anything from administration?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And we have no in-camera session tonight. Oh, sorry, we need to confirm the agenda as amended. My mistake. We have a motion from Councillor Peterson to confirm the agenda as amended. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We have no presentations or recognitions and delegations. Our first delegation is
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Sorry, Mr. Legore?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce Kara Rusk. Kara will be starting with the council, with the town on June 21st. She is our new Director of Strategic and Administrative Services, which is Jennifer's replacement. Welcome aboard, Karen. We look forward to working with you. And she's just here to listen into a council meeting. So everybody can behave well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deborah, maybe you can help me send a letter or a card of condolence to High River, Craig Snodgrass. He's probably a little sad tonight, but we're glad to have you and welcome to our staff. So our first delegation is 5.1, the Agricultural Society delegation.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have Ryan Schmidt with us, I believe, tonight, and maybe someone else from the Ag Society. And They just want to update council and talk about the possible quarantine area for the Calgary Stampede contract midway workers. With that, I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
Your Worship, if I might, just on a point of privilege, Councillor Bauer noted earlier in the meeting that she hadn't received some documents, and Ms. Hammond had sent out an additional document from the Ag Society regarding this, so I just wanted to make sure that she had that in front of her as well. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Sorry for the interruption.
Well, that's okay. Thank you very much for that. Ryan, welcome this evening, and we look forward to your presentation, and we know that you and your people will be able to clear up a lot of misconceptions, ease some of the worries that may be out there, and we look forward to hearing from you folks tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just give the first word to our president, Steph LeBlanc here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steph LeBlanc. I'm the president of the Strathmore District Ag Society. I'd like to thank everybody on the council, the mayors, the town administration, and staff for having us, to be so quick to having us on your meetings. We'd like to spend a bit of time to explain to you our plans and how this is would be working out. Let it be that everybody agrees with it. At this time, I would like to pass it on to Ryan Schmidt, our CEO and GM. Thank you very much for everybody. And then go ahead, Ryan, explain to everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, so I just want to echo that. Thanks for your time this evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, and administration. And we're here to seek your input regarding the potential quarantine of North American Midway Entertainment employees at the Strathmore District Agricultural Society grounds. We know there has been some concern from some residents, and so we definitely wanted to have the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have, because I'm sure you have heard some of these concerns. I also did want to express my apology that the town was caught off guard regarding this news. The truth is that the timing of that news coming out was also a surprise to us. So it definitely caught me off guard as well. And we certainly had planned to discuss this with stakeholders, including the town, once discussions had advanced further. We just hadn't reached a point of certainty even, and there's still actually no certainty at this point, but we hadn't reached a point where we were confident enough that it would even proceed, that it was prudent to have discussions yet. But anyways, I know that a lot of you heard from various folks, either through social media or calls, and I do apologize that it did catch you off guard. Nonetheless, we do believe this is a good opportunity for the town, and discussions have advanced more quickly in the last week and a half or so. I think North American Midway Entertainment is a very professional organization, and they have prepared a very strong plan for the safety and security, not only of their employees, but for residents. This isn't a plan that they get to come up with on their own. In this case, this would be a federal quarantine. And so it's not even Alberta Health Services that has to approve it. It is the Canadian Border Services Agency. And they're not going easy on these guys, that's for sure. I've reviewed the plan, a couple iterations of it myself, and it's strong. Next point, I think, this is an opportunity to bring good economic benefits to our community. And finally, I think it just shows a welcoming spirit of Strathmore, that we're willing to help these folks out. They need to stay somewhere. And it's also an opportunity to help out our partners in Calgary and with the Calgary Stampede. That's certainly an important relationship to us as the Agricultural Society. And it's good rental for us as the Agricultural Society as well. So I want to speak first and foremost to the plan, because I think where I did hear concerns, it was definitely about security and COVID-19 protocols. And this is a very tight plan. It's not the first one that Canadian Border Services agencies has worked on. I mean, these were in place for the NHL bubble, for example, as well. They've got some experience in this, and you can definitely see some of that reflected in the way that this plan is being developed. So first of all, I should note we don't have a rental agreement in place with them yet. We did want to seek your input on this first. But the proposed quarantine would begin on June 11th, and they would come with certain caravans coming from different locations. So the last of those to arrive would be on June 18th. And so some of them would be released in quarantine 14 days after June 11th. The very last ones to leave quarantine would be on July 2nd. There would be a maximum of 250 employees staying at the location at any given time, kind of at the peak. They would be stationed in Chuckwagon Village. So this is a completely fenced and secured site at the northeast corner of our grounds. There would be one safety checkpoint for entry, which is Gate 5. There would be no other entry or exit points for the employees. There would be 24/7 third-party security on site. And as far as COVID testing protocols, this was an important question. So they would all be required to provide a negative test within 72 hours of arriving at the Canadian border. They would then have to be, transported all the way directly to the agricultural grounds. There would be no stopping along the way. And they have regular testing through Switch Health, which is a Calgary-based private health company that has many of the airport contracts for the federal government, certainly for the Calgary airport. So there's a protocol in place for them to submit test results regularly throughout their stay. They obviously cannot leave for 14 days, and senior management is traveling with them. So the president of North American Midways Entertainment himself is coming up from the United States to be a part of their summer tour in the Calgary Stampede. So this is not just the ride operators. There's all mid and senior management is coming up with them. Finally, we did receive 6 letters of reference from other organizations speaking in favor and speaking highly of North American Midway Entertainment. One of them was from Calgary Stampede, and I think I managed to get that one into your briefing packages. Thank you to town administration. I did try to get the other ones in as well, and I'm not sure because I was after the deadline, I believe, but we did receive letters from the Canadian Association of Fairs and Exhibitions, the Regina Exhibition, the Red River Exhibition in Winnipeg, Northlands Coliseum as well. So the current state of the planning is that the Canadian Border Services Agency has not yet approved their plan. I think they're getting close, but it hasn't been approved yet. So there's still that step to be completed. And then of course we would need to sign a rental agreement with them. On the point of economic benefits, I think they're fairly obvious. I mean, having 250 people staying in Strathmore, not going around the community, but needing services. The reality is they're going to be accessing restaurants, groceries, and other supplies, just based on some rough calculations of, how much one might spend if they were stuck camping somewhere, for a day, and not being able to bring that much with them. It could probably approach $200,000 to local businesses. And so we think that's a really good benefit for the community. Finally, I just think it shows a welcoming spirit by the Ag Society and the town to welcome these folks here. Like I said, these are folks who, they actually sought out Strathmore as a community to potentially come to because of the size of the town, the services that were available, and the selection of restaurants. They actually approached us based on wanting to come to Strathmore. They could go to other communities, but I see this as an opportunity. The reality is that these folks are going to be locked into Chuckwagon Village. They're not going to be going around town. And there's probably no higher risk that they have COVID than anyone else in the first place. But they're going to be stuck in that location. They're not going to be going to the restaurants. They've got delivery people that they've got in place who are going to go out and pick things up, bring them back to the gate checkpoint where they can be picked up at a pickup table. There'll be security at that checkpoint. So I think it's a good plan, a pretty safe plan. And I think it's a good thing for Strathmore and the Agricultural Society. So again, we're here, we're speaking in favor of the rental, and we hope to have your support, but we also recognize there are concerns out there to be addressed, and we want to answer your questions and seek your support for this approach. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have any questions from the councillors at home or here? Councillor Peterson?
Thank you very much, CAO Schmidt. I really appreciate you coming. And questions I have were questions that were posed to me by community, and I think they relate very well to what you spoke to. One of the questions was, once personnel have finished their quarantine, are they allowed back on site?
So no, they would not be allowed back on site because there's other people that are still quarantining there. they would be going directly to the Calgary Stampede grounds to help with the setup of the midway there. But no, they would not be allowed back onto the site.
Thank you. And the second question was, do they have food preparation services on site?
No, they don't have food preparation on site. They're going to rely on local. They may have some cookware in their campers, for example, should say, but there's not like food trucks on site. They're going to acquire food either from grocery stores to cook or to purchase from local restaurants. I suspect it'll be heavily weighted to the restaurants, but I can't say for certain how much, but certainly all the supplies would come from Strathmore anyways.
Thank you. And the final question posed to me was, is it possible that we might work with this group on or through local health services or Siksika to assist in vaccinations if these people were amenable?
Sorry, do you mean to assist with vaccinations of the employees, or
just of the people that are staying in the bubble? If we would ever consider offering that as a service, that was a question posed to me by a community member, just as a help, just as an assist.
Yeah, I can certainly look into that. I don't know the answer to that question, but I can certainly look into that.
Those are all my questions. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Sobel, then Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. LeBlanc, Ryan. Nice to have you here. My first question was basically associated to what Councillor Peterson just said. So I take it there's no prerequisite for these people to be vaccinated coming across.
Not that I'm aware of, but I can double check on that.
Thank you. And second, just to clarify something, Ryan, when the rumors and social media started, there was some indication that this was not for midway workers, but for riders and participants in the stampede. But just to clarify, that is not the case. We're only dealing with the 250 midway workers, correct?
Yeah, so that is the discussion has been around the midway workers. We have had some discussions with the Calgary Stampede about other opportunities, but no, this is what we have in place at the moment. And I'll certainly brief council at the earliest opportunity if there's progress on other opportunities.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you very much. And thanks a lot, Ryan, for all that information. A question that I have just has to do with, so we're being asked to endorse the plan. Whether or not we endorse it, like you're not here for permission, right? You're just here for kind of public knowledge and an endorsement, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, legally, I don't think we require permission. I would feel uncomfortable proceeding with this without knowing that the town was also supportive. I guess it's more if you guys were dead against it, we would want to know that, and that would be a serious problem for us. We're partners on a lot of things, pretty much everything we do. And so, I wanted to make sure your questions could be answered and to gain your input. So legally, no, we don't require the town's permission, but we definitely value your input. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Thank you very much. I personally endorse it for sure. And I'm glad that you guys are, doing what you can basically to bring in business and to make things happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you to Brian Schmidt and Steph LeBlanc for being with us today. I really appreciate you coming forward and just setting the record straight and quelling a lot of unsettled people out there who were going down rabbit holes that, I never even anticipated. And so it's so nice to know that, you were just as surprised as we were as well, because we were wondering where did this come from? So thank you for addressing that as well. My question is with COVID, of course, there have been, so many businesses affected, and I'm so thankful that you are, so thinking that there's might be, in the amount of 200,000 injected back into our economy, is the is the Ag Society also going to be benefiting? Because this was implemented by, a federal program, are they paying you something, or is there going to be, because they are using our resources while we're here, is there something that the Ag Society can take away from this as well?
Yes, good question. Thank you. Yeah, it is a rental, so they do need to rent a location on the grounds from us, and it is, without divulging, the contractual amount, I would say it's a strong rental and it's a good benefit to the Agricultural Society for sure. Yeah.
I'm very happy, and I'm very supportive, and thank you so much again for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Ryan, if anyone's been the voice of care and caution about COVID in this town, it's been me. And having heard you speak and reading your presentation, I have a great deal of trust in your group, and I have a great deal of faith that things will be done carefully and, again, cautiously, as I said. I think we can reassure the public that everything will be fine. Mr. Legore, did you want to say something?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because this is a good economic development initiative for the town, we thought it would be appropriate to pass the motion that we have there before council, and that's why we presented it, that we endorse this. We understand that we do not have the authority to say yay or nay to these people. This is completely outside our jurisdiction, but I thought it was a good idea for council to endorse it because of the benefit to the community in these hard times. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Councillor Peterson, would you like to make a motion?
Your Worship, I would move that council work diligently with the Strathmore Agricultural Society's plan to create a safe and secure quarantine area for the Calgary Stampede's contracted midway workers.
Thank you, and I'll just finish my thought for the public at home. I just want to reassure you that the Strathmore Agricultural Society in the town takes the COVID-19 seriously, and everyone's going to be working to make sure that people stay safe and healthy. And the fact that so many of our businesses have suffered, and there's an opportunity during this quarantine period to really bring a lot of business to restaurants and other in stores and things, we think it should be a very, very good thing for our community. Councillor Montgomery, I see your hand.
Yeah, sorry, could I just get that motion read again, please?
Your Worship, I move that council work diligently with the Strathmore Agricultural Society's plan to create a safe and secure quarantine area for the Calgary Stampede's contracted midway workers.
Thank you. Could you elaborate on what you mean by council working diligently? Like the motion that was in our agenda was just to endorse the plan, which I do, but I don't know what's entailed with your particular motion. Could you elaborate, please?
So sure, I don't mind speaking to it. So when I say working diligently, I'm reflecting exactly what CAO Legore spoke about in terms of this being an economic benefit to the town. So this is more than just an economic endeavor, and I recognize that. But that's the working diligently part, is that we see this as an economic endeavor, and we'll work diligently on that part. The other part that I added is that this will be a safe and secure quarantine area. CAO Schmidt has outlined a very, very secure plan for this quarantine, and I believe that in making the motion in this way, that our citizens have the assurance of both the Agricultural Society and the town of Strathmore that it will be a safe and secure quarantine area, that it will be safe for the people that are quarantined, and it'll be safe for the population of Strathmore and the surrounding area. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, could you possibly identify like what action will have to be taken by the town? I'm just want to know what resources will be involved and basically what the undertaking is on behalf of the town.
Councillor Peterson?
So not to belabor this, Your Worship, but I think what generally happens in a case like this is that if there is economic development processes that need support, then the town is a likely place to go. Sometimes it is the Chamber of Commerce, but the town is a good conduit to cater to that. They're also a good communications hub to be able to get messages out if there's concerns from community. I can think of all kinds of intersections, Your Worship, that that the town would have with the Ag Society on this adventure and on many others.
I think if I could add, I think the wording, Councillor Montgomery, would just show that the town is willing to step up and keep comms open and do what we can to support the Agricultural Society's plan to create that area. So it's just, I think it's just put in the motion to show that we'll be working with them. I'm sure there'll be many communications back and forth as this gets closer and as the week is going on. Does that help?
Yeah, like I totally like the idea of, helping them with comms and whatnot. I'm concerned about the vagueness of the action side, I guess, and what that will cost. Like the Ag Society's come to us just asking, just presenting a plan essentially, which I like, and they're not asking for our help. And without administration, I guess, telling us, what they plan on. If we vote to say yes, that the town will work with the Ag Society, I would like to know what the town plans on doing over and above just comms.
Well, I think the administration would be involved since it's an operational thing. They would be the ones to determine what kinds of efforts and things they would do to support the Agricultural Society. Again, if you don't feel comfortable with the wording that Councillor Peterson has in her motion, you could suggest a friendly amendment. I'm not sure if she'd accept it, or you could vote against this motion.
I was just going to call the question, Your Worship.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Legore, and then you can...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there will be no additional costs. Mr. Pearson may want to speak to it. He's been working closely with Ryan to this date and can certainly address any concerns of council, how he'll work with them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Councillor. There are two things within my... So there's two areas within my department that I think would be really well suited to this. Communications, as Councillor Peterson has brought up. The town does a very good job with communications, especially with locals, which I think is really important on something like this, where we saw that there were people who reacted very quickly to this, and they had a lot of questions about this. I think that even once Council would provide an endorsement behind this or approve us to work with the Ag Society, those questions will continue. It'll take a little while for the whole community to hear about this. And so I think that's something that the town can communicate about very effectively. The second one is that we recently brought on a new economic development coordinator, Kristen Shima. She's done a really terrific job so far of connecting with local businesses. Once she heard about this, one of her very first instincts was putting together business packages to make it easier for the workers at the site to support local businesses. So rather than going for maybe the fastest choice or the easiest choice, that hopefully we can spread some of this economic impact across a wider range of businesses that might have potentially been overlooked. So I think that we have brought on these extra new resources between an economic development coordinator and then the rest of the communications and marketing team. I think that Mr. Legore is exactly right. There's no additional cost to the town in terms of additional spend. It would just be captured through staff resources that were really well suited to move on with this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, and thank you very much for that explanation. That makes me feel a lot better. The last thing I wanted to do was, have people working overtime or, have people patrolling or something like that. So that sounds good to me. I like the idea that there won't be any extra costs. So thank you very much. And thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. So I don't think there are any more comments. I will call the motion. All in favor of the motion by Councillor Peterson? And the motion is carried. Thank you. And Ryan, thank you, and you and your Ag Society board members for being here tonight. We appreciate the information and your report, and we have absolute trust and faith in you. We think that the town and the Agricultural Society have been great partners over the years, and we know you'll do your utmost to protect everyone involved. So thank you. I think it's going to be a great boon for our businesses too. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And that brings us to 5.2, the first Strathmore Guides, Girl Guides of Canada, and I believe Leanne Conrad is speaking tonight first. Leanne, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I have a PowerPoint presentation that the girls have put together, And let me just share this with you now. All right, so thank you for hearing us tonight. We are from the Strathmore Girl Guides here in town, and as part of our community service, we were at the Strathmore Town Hall and New Farmers Market Pavilion, and we're working on our community service, and the girls noticed that there was something missing. So they decided that a bike rack perhaps maybe should be installed at that location. So today we will talk to you about why these bike racks are needed, where the bike rack should go, what kind of bike rack we should put in, and maybe what about a repair station? So each of the girls have written you a letter, and I'd like to call on Rebecca to read hers first.
Why I think that bike racks need to be used more. The cars pollute the air and we will run out of oil. But bikes do not, and you get exercise not like cars. And you will not run out of gas. The battery will not die because bikes do not have batteries.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Our next letter was written by Jaden. Who sometimes has internet trouble.
Hello, I'm writing this letter on behalf of the Strathmore Girl Guides. Us Girl Guides think it would be a great idea to have a bike rack down by the flea market or in the area. The weather is getting nice, so more people will be out and about on their bikes. And they might stop at the flea market, but they have nowhere to put their bikes. So we think if you would put in bike racks, that would help a lot of people who maybe don't own a car or that are just riding their bikes. We also have some design ideas for what the bike racks could look like. This is why we want bike racks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Jaden. Our next letter writer was unable to be with us tonight, but she sent a video.
Why I think we need bike racks in Strathmore. Biking instead of driving with less wear and tear on the public roads, less poison in the air, less congestion for other cars, more parking spots, and less on our roads. Consider more bike racks. Thank you.
That was Jordan. Thank you very much, Jordan. Our next girl also was not able to attend, but she sent a video as well.
In our town is because people ride bikes in the summer because it is nice outside. I would like to encourage people to ride bikes in the summer. Riding a bike is an ideal form of exercise that improves strength and will boost everyone's mood and encourages the community to be outside and decreases traffic. Bike racks are a form of security so I can walk my bike up and shop. As a cyclist, you see more of Strathmore than driving a car. Bikes reduce the need to build service and dispose of cars and also conserves roadways and road maintenance. You will never get stuck in traffic and always have a great parking spot.
That was Mackenzie. Thank you very much, Mackenzie. Our next letters come to you from Emma and Sophie.
We love to ride our bikes but don't have anywhere to park them. Cars pollute the air and they produce global warming and reduce where the polar bears and penguins live.
Thank you very much, Emma and Sophie. Location, location, location. Where should we put these bike racks? Rebecca decided to travel around town and figure out the best locations for them, and she's put together some maps for you. You're on mute, Rebecca.
I think that this is a good spot for the bike rack because we do not have to build much off of what's already there, and you do not have to cross a street or road to get to the bike rack.
Explain it.
I choose a spot because it's close to the parking lot, this park, and the sidewalk. I choose a spot because it's away from the parking lot and it's not too far from the path and it's easier to get to the baseball diamond. I choose a spot because it's near the path, so if you want to put your bike up somewhere you do not want to walk a lot on the grass, then you have a bike rack right there. I choose a spot because it's not too far off the path and close to the park itself.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Now, the girls thought, what kind of bike rack do we want to put in? So they did some Googling and came back the next week with these manufactured ones or pre-manufactured that we could buy from Rona and put in. But then they put their thinking caps on, and with a little bit of encouragement and some knowledge of the engineering design principles and the cycles, they put their thinking caps together and came up with their own ideas. So what did the girls design? This is the first design. They decided that they wanted to be able to hold between 5 and 7 bikes, and that the bikes needed to be able to hold both adult bikes and little kid bikes and scooters. So this is the first design that one girl came up with. It's got some kitty cats there or some hearts. The next design, you'll see the swoops and the waves, and that's for the bikes to go between, with the flowers, of course. The next bike rack looked like snowmen for the little kids' bikes. They're nice and short. Here we have a more developed one with the swoops again for your bikes to go between the swoops where those arrows are, and the shorter one for the little kids' bikes. And those hooks on the top would be for your helmet or for your scooters or for the little kids' bikes. This one was a little bit different, and it's very colorful, and it's all about the solar system and outer space. And so it's more of a plain piece that you attach your lock to and not necessarily hold your bike. This one is very simple, and it's just got hooks for you to hang your bike on or your scooter on. This one you'll see some color back in, and there's some hearts or those little shamrocks. Those are actually a trefoil. The Girl Guide logo is a trefoil, as you'll see in the bottom of our presentation there, and that's what those are supposed to be. Last but not least, we have this design, which have the colors for the Girl Guide branches. So blue is for guides, pink is for sparks, red is for rangers, green is for pathfinders, and I believe that's brown on the end for brownies. So of knowing that we can't put all of them in the parks or use all of those different designs, we often do this when we come up with our own badge creations. We take all the different elements and we put them together and we come up with a plan. So what did the girls put together as their plan? They came up with this design. There are 6 swoops. So the swoops are kept. The different colors and the different elements of all the different designs. So we have a pink heart, a brown hooks for the trikes. We have a blue trefoil for the Girl Guides, a green cat, because everyone loves cats this year, red tulips, and purple daisies. They'd also like a plaque to say designed by the first Strathmore Guides in 2021. Now the colors are those of the Girl Guide branches. Pink for sparks, brown for brownies, blue for guides, green for pathfinders, red for rangers, and purple for the trefoil guilds. But one girl decided, what happens if I broke my bike or I needed to fix it? So she took it upon herself to say, well, what about a bike repair station? And she went and Googled this bike repair stand and said, this would be a good one to put in at the farmers market pavilion, because everybody bikes to the farmers market or to the playground and the splash park. And what happens if they get a flat or something happens? So they also thought maybe we could do some bike repair stations with these bike racks. So in summary, please add bike racks to the parks around town. We would like to see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you to the Girl Guides who spoke or presented as well tonight. It's much appreciated. I'll turn to the councillors to see if they have any questions for the Girl Guides and for Leanne.
And girls, you may turn on your cameras at this time if you like.
Bauer, sorry.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to Leanne Conrad and all of you girls that have joined us today. It's so nice to see your faces. The last time you did this presentation to Councillor Montgomery and I, we were wowed. And I have to say that you have done even a better job of tweaking it and making it so professional today. So thank you for coming and thank you for doing that. I would like to very much support your recommendation that we place not only bike racks, but also bike repair stations or a station at Kinsman Park and perhaps other locations in Strathmore. And I am prepared to make a motion, Your Worship.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I move that Council direct administration to investigate the possibility of placing bike racks and or repair stations at Kinsman Park or other town-owned parks or property using the suggestions given to us by the Girl Guides today. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that we have a motion on the floor, we can have discussion. Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And yeah, thank you very much, girls. Great presentation. It's as Councillor Bauer said, you managed to improve on it what you did last time. And you know what? I really appreciate all the research that you guys did and all the legwork that you did and the designing that you did. And so I certainly support this motion, and I hope to see some of your bike racks and a bike repair station in the near future. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Peterson.
I wanted to say that I think you are the first youth delegation to appear before this council via Zoom in this century, and I think that will be a time for the ages. And I congratulate you on your environmental processes and your considerations. It's a very, very good thing that I see that you're doing. And I really hope you get a chance in this. I support this motion completely. I really hope you get, we have this engineering guy who works for the town, and he's pretty smart about such things. I really hope you have an opportunity to meet with Ethan when you go forward. So thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. So we do have a motion on the floor, and I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And the motion is carried. Once again, ladies, thank you. Leanne, thank you. And thank you, Girl Guides, for your presentation. You were successful tonight. You had a good presentation, and Council supports the concept and moving forward to consider bike racks. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
You're welcome. Have a great evening, everybody. And we have no consent agenda tonight. We move on to item 7, confirmation of minutes. 7.1, adoption of the May 19th, 2021 regular council meeting minutes.
I'll move the minutes, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt those minutes from Councillor Peterson. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that motion is carried. We have no tabled items tonight. We move on to item 9, items and reports from administration. 9.1, mailbox receptacles, which is on page 15 of your agenda package. If you're playing at home on your bingo cards. Donna, welcome. Your staff must be really struggling with this latest heat. Oh.
We're taking care of them. Absolutely. Making sure they take lots of shade breaks, lots of water. Yeah, we make sure we take care of them in this heat. Freezies, dilly bars, that sort of thing as well. So good evening, Your Worship and Council. This evening I'm here to request an allocation of capital funds of $15,000 from the mailbox garbage receptacle program to changing of the banner arms on 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue. Excuse me, sorry. During the 55 plus games, organizers donated multi-use plastic garbage receptacles to the town of Strathmore when the games were over. Because these were plastic receptacles used outside, most of them were all broken in some capacity, and they were removed from their locations and replaced with a bare bin. There are approximately 140 mailbox locations in town. 14 of these locations currently have a garbage receptacle placed by the mailbox. These 14 mailbox garbage receptacles are checked and changed up to 3 times per week, depending on the location and volumes of the materials observed at each location over time. Many of these receptacles are not only filled with paper, but also contain pet waste bags and other garbage. Unfortunately, some are also used for illegal dumping. The mailbox garbage receptacles are problematic due to the volume and weight of the bags. When too much paper is placed inside of these receptacles, staff need to empty the contents by hand into an additional bag before they can lift it into the truck. Administration estimates that if we were to add receptacles to the remaining 126 plus locations, it would take an additional 2 days to complete a full garbage run. This would depend on the volume of materials disposed in the receptacles. Our full garbage run can take 1 to 1.5 days to complete, and this depends again on the use and the volume. Administration estimates if the 126 garbage receptacles were to be added to the current garbage run, this task would require an additional part-time employee plus the equipment cost. We estimate this to be around $36,000, and that would be required each year to maintain these additional receptacles. I also spoke with Canada Post to obtain information on their thoughts of having the receptacles at the mailboxes, and they indicated that the flyers, brochures, and advertising mail is paid for by the company doing the advertising, and the intention of them paying for this advertising is for the recipient to take the item home and hopefully look at it. The second issue Canada Post has with the garbage can at the mailbox is misdirected mail can be placed in the garbage instead of the mail slot and returned back to the sender. We would like you to consider allocating this year's funds to somewhat of an urgent matter. There are currently 44 poles on banner poles on 2nd and 3rd Avenue that have or had banners on them. In the last 3 years, 5 banner arms have broken off. There has been 1 vehicle damaged by a banner that the arm fell off and fell onto the ground. So I did bring one of these arms with me that broke off. It is made of solid steel, and so it is quite heavy, and if you want to lift it, you certainly can. So in 2019, Fortis graciously dedicated over 100 hours of their time to install these banners and the arms. Unfortunately, the first indication of a problem came soon after when one of the arms vibrated apart. It was then discovered that the banners were too small for the spacing between each banner arm, making the banner incredibly taut. The mounting hardware was also over-galvanized and spray-coated when built. This did not let the threads seat fully. So after this first incident, Fortis did return, and they retapped and dyed the arms and added a set bolt with a thread lock to help prevent the arm from coming apart at the pole. This method did work, but unfortunately now many of the arms are seized. Now when the wind picks up, the banner acts like a sail, puts pressure on the pole, and when there is no movement, the banner arm is snapping off the pole. When administration had the frontline worker banners put up, the contractor indicated that many of the poles are so seized he could not get them to budge, even with the largest tools possible. He indicated that we would need to cut the banners at the seams to remove them in the future if we keep these same banner arms. A proper banner arm is spring-loaded and has flexibility to it. A spring-loaded banner arm allows for movement and flexibility when the wind picks up, and it is critical that we replace these steel arms with a proper flexible arm to ensure the safety of the people walking or parking below these banners. There are a few risks with going forward with the garbage receptacle program, one of them being just risk to injuring workers lifting the heavy bags, and also adding the additional part-time worker to assist with the completion of the task. But the big risk is damaging property or seriously injuring a person with these banner arms. So I would like to recommend that Council not go forward with the garbage receptacle at the mailbox, and we would like you to consider allocating this year's funds for that program of $15,000 to the replacement of the banner arms. And if you do approve this the replacement of the banner arms, and we don't go forward with the receptacle program, the $33,000 in the subsequent years will be removed from the budget. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have some questions from councillors at home or here? Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you very much. And thanks a lot, Donna, for the presentation. will the $15,000 cover the entire cost of the banner arms?
Yes, it will. It's just over $14,000 to have them all replaced.
Okay, that's my only question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, and thank you, Donna. Clearly, the banner arms is an issue that has to be dealt with fairly quickly. There's two things I wanted to comment on in regards to the receptacles, and one is the fact that the reason this project was taken on by the 55 plus games personnel was because of the incredible mess that was being left at mailboxes from people that were not taking, in spite of what Canada Post would like to see. Many people don't want flyers in their mailboxes, and in fact, I am regularly asked how to stop these from going into their mailbox. And as far as I know, nobody's ever found a solution to that. Those things will end up in somebody's mailbox, and it becomes a frustration for the people. At least that's what we found in regards to the 55 plus games. So that was the idea for the receptacles. It was to get the trash off the boulevard, off the grass, off in between the mailboxes. And when I'm talking trash, and when and if we do this, I would suggest we're going to see this again. There'll be all that stuff that ends up in the garbage can now will end up on our street. So I think it's a difficult situation that we're in, but I think we're going to create ourselves a problem, and I really don't have a solution for it. The solution we felt was appropriate years back was to put a receptacle for a place for people to throw garbage in. So, I guess I don't suppose you have any other suggestions in regards to how to avoid getting all this trash on our properties.
I do have a couple of suggestions. So if there are people who do not want to receive the flyers in their mailbox, they can contact Canada Post and request that they don't receive the flyers any longer. I have been at some recycling conferences. There's also a little magnet tab you can put inside that says you don't want to receive the flyers. If that tab is inside your mailbox, they cannot deliver the flyers.
Well, thank you, and that's great. And I wonder if we could have some kind of advice to our residents to take advantage of that plan. I think it's a good one. I just heard that people have difficulty in getting that, and perhaps it's because they're not going about it the right way. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer, do you have a question, or were you thinking of a discussion point? I'm just wondering if we have a discussion, we should probably put a motion on the floor and then we can discuss. But if you have a question, that would be allowable. Or you could put a motion on the floor.
I would be happy to put the motion on the floor and then ask my question, Your Worship.
Well, you can ask your question as long as it's a question. We're trying to move towards more of a discussion after the motion gets on the floor. But if you have a question, that's great.
Donna, thank you for your presentation. I've had a big problem with this type of garbage. I don't think our town should be in the business of collecting recycled material and then having to recycle it. I think that should be put back on our residents. And I'm very much in favor of this. But the only thing I saw missing from your communication was just that piece about how we're going to let people know if this goes forward. Would it be the town has decided no longer to accept recyclable material, or would we put up a little sign or something? Like, I'm just kind of thinking that if we just remove them, we may have more issues with garbage, and I don't want that. So I would really like to know if there's a community engagement piece. Thank you.
Absolutely. We can engage the community and let them know that we won't be putting additional garbage cans there. We won't be removing the 14 that are already out, though. Those ones will remain in place. We just wouldn't put the additional. So it's not like we're going to take away something that's not already there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer, are you prepared to make your motion now too?
I am. I move that council approve the elimination of the mailbox garbage receptacle project and reallocate funds for the 2021 to replacement of the banner arms on 2nd Avenue and 3rd Avenue.
Thank you for that. And now we have that motion on the floor. Councillor Montgomery, you have a discussion point?
Yeah, thank you very much. I got a little, I was going to make the motion, but then I got a little bit confused there for a second. So we're stopping the program, but we're still going to continue to obviously empty those same garbage cans. Is that what I'm understanding?
The 14 garbage cans that are already in place are going to stay there. We won't remove them. We'll just leave them as is. But we just wouldn't place any additional garbage cans at the mailbox locations.
Okay. And the 33,000 savings per year, that comes from not doing what?
From not moving forward with the program. This year there was $15,000 allocated, and then in 2022 and 23 there was $33,000 allocated. So I will just remove that from the capital budget.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Sobel. I think you're muted, Councillor Sobel.
Of course I am. It's just a question in regards to the motion. So we're dealing with 2nd and 3rd Avenue. Do they not require changing on Lakeside Boulevard?
They would, yes, if we put banners up, but there's no banners right now. So I could actually, if we put banners up, I do want to do a banner program in the future. That is my plan, is to bring that forward. But because there are no banners up there, I won't change those out at this time. When I bring forward a proposal to council in the capital budget to have a banner program, at that time I would have them changed out.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Donna, for your presentation, and good luck with this heat.
Thank you. I love the heat.
Bring it on. You're a brave person. It does. The town looks very good.
Thank you.
That brings us to 9.2 Canadian Badlands, and I believe Mr. Teedy is speaking to that. Welcome, Mel.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town has supported Canadian Badlands in the past. However, Council has received financial projections for 2022. They included higher projected expenses and a potential increase in taxes for 2022. This small adjustment of not providing financial support for Canadian Badlands provides an opportunity to make a small adjustment without a large impact to the citizens of Strathmore through this saving. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And just a reminder to council, we'll do questions first. So if you have questions for Mel first, and then if we're going to have a discussion, we should put a motion on the floor after. So are there questions for Mel tonight first? Councillor Bauer, your hand is up. Is that from before? Oh, Councillor Bauer, no.
Thank you, Your Worship. As the current council representative on the Canadian Badlands, I've been witness to their diligent efforts to engage community with a reputable firm to reassess their strategic priorities. It is my recommendation at this time that we wait until a period of 3 months to revisit this after the final report is given to the Badlands, as I know as to how they will rebrand and go forward. I look forward to having this information before making a decision today. I do not want to make a decision to discontinue help for the Badlands in light of the provincial government making a very, prior to COVID, a very huge announcement where they said that the economic tourism in this province east of the Parks, Banff, Jasper, Lake Louise, and all of that corridor that is currently so oversaturated that they promise to increase by $20 million by I believe it was 2030 or 2040. And we could miss out by not being part of the Canadian Badlands because they work so integrally with Alberta tourism. And I'm not ready to put forward this motion. I'm not ready to support this motion at this time. And I would like to recommend your worship that instead that we table this for a 3-month period, and that we just let the Canadian Badlands know that we are going to wait for the final report to come from their board before we go ahead and pay this invoice. Would you like me to make a motion, your worship?
Well, I think we're just waiting to see if anyone has any questions first.
Thank you.
Sobel, did you have a question about what you've heard, and then I guess we can entertain a motion. Councillor Sobel, I thought I saw your hand.
I'm good, Your Worship. I was going to make a motion, but Councillor Bowers looks like she wishes to do so first.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Bauer, are you prepared? Oh, Councillor Peterson, did you have a?
No, I was just going to make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bauer, you have a motion?
Yes, I move to wait for a period of 3 months and revisit our opportunity to provide financial support for the Canadian Badlands Limited, and that administration prepare a letter to be sent to the Canadian Badlands notifying them that Strathmore will pay for, or that Strathmore will make a decision as to their membership in the Canadian Badlands after a report is given from the Badlands to Strathmore. And I do encourage your worship that either we invite Donna Bigger to come, or in some way we get the board to send a representative to do that presentation, please.
Thank you. And I guess I'll just make a comment since we've got a motion on the floor. While it may look like 3 more months would help, I've been on council for 11 years and really haven't seen a lot of benefit for our town. It took a great many years to get signage put up, and we did manage to get a conference in 2019, I believe, and that cost money as well. So I just haven't seen any benefits or anything that has been a boon to Strathmore's economy or tourism in the past 11 years. So I would not be in favor of this, but I'll go to Councillor Montgomery and then Councillor Sobel.
Thank you very much. I guess my first question would just be for Councillor Bauer, if you have a specific date in mind that we would, 3 months puts us around September, early September.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. I was hoping to have connected with Donna Bigger from the president of the Canadian Badlands Association prior to this evening. However, that did not happen. We did not connect. And so I would like to ask if council would be amenable to extend that to 3 months to be to September 30th, considering that council usually takes a break in August, and then that would allow us enough time. We would have the report, and I would be able to invite Councillor Bigger through administration to our council meeting in September.
Thank you. My next question would be for administration. What does administration and administration's economic development arm have to say about Canadian Badlands and about the value, let's say, that they expect from being a member?
Mr. Legore?
Through Mr. Mayor, we do not see any value from an economic or tourism point of view for the town with membership in the Badlands Association. This was discussed at a Wheatland Regional Partnership meeting as well, and the majority of the members there spoke to the same thing, that they did not see much value in their membership in Badlands.
Councilor Montgomery, does
Thank
that?
you. Yeah, I guess if I could have a follow-up question for administration. That is there any? I guess what is their opinion on the best way to kind of improve tourism and to kind of promote tourism or capture more tourism? If not the Canadian Badlands, sorry.
I would assume our economic advisor, our economic person would have a plan as far as things to try to improve tourism and economy in our town. Mr. Legore?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're already trying to do that through economic development, working with local chambers and local business, trying to support the local economy as much as we can to begin with. I've had discussions with our people, and they do not see any merit in continuing with the Badlands Association as well. They think we're better off to put our efforts into trying to draw traffic off of Highway 1 into Strathmore.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I could follow Councillor Montgomery's, I just have a question for Mr. Teedy. Waiting 3 months, how does that impact you and your staff as far as the budgeting planning?
We anticipate having a draft budget shortly for council, and the September 30th window would be past that date for the draft budget.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Sobel and then back to Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll be speaking against this particular motion. I'd like to deal with this matter today, there's already been some comment in regards to our new economic development officer, and it's interesting because on previous occasions when we've discussed similar things, we've looked at a made in Strathmore solution, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to follow that philosophy with our EDO in consultation perhaps with Alberta Tourism to develop a tourism strategy. So I'm not willing to support postponing this, and I'd like to deal with it today and will not support the Badlands. Thank you.
Thank you. And before I go back to Councillor Bauer, since you've spoken on it, I'll go to Councillor Peterson and then I'll come to Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Worship. I was a huge supporter of trying to stay in Canadian Badlands when the Mayor and Councillor Sobel and other councillors were extremely doubtful about the usefulness. And people like Terry Kinsman and Rocking R came to our council and pleaded for time. One of the things that brought to me was a mindfulness to keep a watch, to see, because Canadian Badlands Tourism made some promises to us. Now, in that time, one of their leaders passed away, and they had some other issues as well, but they still had staff in place, Your Worship. And over a period of several years, as Councillor Sobel was very fond of pointing out to me on a regular basis, Strathmore did not appear on their websites. There was no promotion of Strathmore on their websites. You were hard-pressed to find a single thing for several years. And so I'm reminded that my support for them was misplaced because they certainly did not support Strathmore. And I'm much more inclined to put the funding that we have or that we may have to our economic development processes here in our community. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And we'll go now to Councillor Bauer, and I believe you can conclude the discussion since you made the motion.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. At this point, I would just like to comment about value. Economic value has been brought up a few times here, and unfortunately, that is something that is very difficult to measure. And it's hard for us to know who's coming into Strathmore because we're part of the Badlands or because they're on the way to perhaps Dinosaur Provincial Park or perhaps even Drumheller. And they might be taking this route rather than going Highway 9. I think it's important to remember that in this past year that I've been on as a member of the Canadian Badlands Board, the Badlands has been regrouping. They've been looking at rebranding. They've been looking at how to be a better community member and how to serve their community in a better way. They have had 2 different conferences since I have been in on this council in Strathmore. We are told that the economic benefit to our hotels and our restaurants and also our tourism operators, such as Bruce Kleiber, who has the Western Heritage Barn. He had probably about 40 or 50 members of the conference at his barn answering questions that were very, very excited. I'm sure that the word got out from that, but I don't know. Is there an economic benefit to that? How many of those people that shared the word about the barn also got family and friends to invest and come back and have events there? It's very difficult for us to know because, of course, we've been in COVID and we've been locked down and we haven't been able to experience those things. I think we're talking about a very small amount, $7,575.68. I think that economic impact, that $7,575.68, when it's combined with the other 40 plus communities, has a huge economic impact. And how they decide to rebrand, if it is, if it goes away, and I very much support, because I've made this very public, that I would support a name change so that it's not all about the Badlands, that it's really about this area. And whether or not that's the ranch lands, the farmlands, it's what we have to bring to this. And I think Strathmore would be short-sighted at this point to get out of the process and the economic impact and who they have as their partners with Alberta Tourism. And we have provincial leaders that regularly check in and give reports of what's happening in Alberta. And to not be a part of that and to not have an ear on the pulse of where Alberta is going in the future coming out of COVID, I think, unfortunately, we would be left behind. So I do understand a made in Strathmore solution might be the way we try to go with some of our other economic dollars. But for this very small amount, I would very much like to see this council decide to just let it go for 3 months. I have been asking for a year. I believe it is almost a year that I've been on this board. And I would like to just see a little more time to get Donna back here and find out where this Badlands group is going in the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And my only comment is I just feel I've given 11 years for this and it hasn't happened in 11 years. So I'll call the question now. All in favor of Councillor Bauer's motion? And opposed? So the motion is defeated, and is anyone prepared to make the motion that was brought? Councillor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that Council decline the opportunity to continue to provide financial support for Canadian Badlands Limited and direct administration to prepare a letter to be sent to Canadian Badlands Limited notifying them of Strathmore's decision to withdraw from membership of Canadian Badlands Ltd.
Thank you, and we have a motion on the floor, so there can be discussion. Are there different points possibly that we would like to mention? Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you very much. I have a question for Councillor Bauer, actually, and I meant to ask it on the previous motion, but I had heard something about Medicine Hat withdrawing from the Canadian Badlands. Is that true?
Yes, Councillor Montgomery, you are right. Medicine Hat and Canalta hotels have withdrawn, and they have decided to do their own economic development within their area.
Thank you. So I certainly support the idea of a regional partnership that is trying to draw tourists to this area. And what I'm hoping, I guess, is that if the Badlands can rebrand and perhaps maybe present to us a compelling argument as far as joining more of a regional association, I would certainly be interested in that. So I do support. At this time I don't. I'd rather not stay in the Canadian Badlands, but I'm certainly open to something that they could put together and possibly present to us that might be more specific to our particular needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think we have some amazing opportunities with Wheatland County and the villages and the Strathmore Agricultural Society to do a much more regional approach just with our own partners in our close by area. So that's what I think would be good for us as well. So we have the new motion on the floor. And is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? And opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Council. And that brings us to 9.3, and Mel is with us. Councillor Bauer?
May I please ask that it be noted that I oppose that motion?
Sure.
Thank you.
It'll be recorded. And you'll record the people who were against. Okay, thank you. That brings us to 9.3, STARS Ambulance. Mr. Teedy is staying up with us again.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town has supported STARS for a number of years. STARS received payments from the town in 2019 and 2020 in the amount of $14,000 each year. Most municipalities do not support STARS financially. Strathmore has faced revenue shortfalls because of the COVID-19 pandemic and closure of the recreation facilities for a portion of this year. This continues to be a problem. Financial adjustments to both the current year and into 2022 will help mitigate tax adjustments into the future. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And again, Council, I'll ask you if you have questions for Mr. Teedy first. We'll do the questions, and then we can put a motion on the floor for an actual discussion, too. Question from Councillor Sobel. And you're muted again.
Wonder how many times that's said in Zoom meetings. Mr. Teedy, I didn't do any research to determine exactly how many municipalities. I'm a little surprised actually with that statistic that most municipalities don't support STARS. But do you know what the numbers are by chance?
I do not, other than from information received from CAO Legore and his comments around this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Montgomery with a question.
Thank you. My first question is, how long has the town been providing support to STARS?
I believe it's 3 years.
Your Worship, in my memory, like definitely for the last 3 we have, but I think we provided support for them in my last term on council as well. It wasn't at this level. It seemed to me it might have been even half of this amount, but.
I do not know the history as far as how many years back or the amounts. I just looked up the last 2 years.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to ask you, we have a good feeling that it's at least 3 years, but I believe it went into the council that I was on before this one. I thought we had also donated money. And again, you could look at a different amount of money too. I'm not sure exactly what we paid in the year or in the years of my other council that I was on. Another question, Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, like I guess I was also surprised to learn that most municipalities don't support STARS, and I kind of thought about where the money, if we're not supporting them, where's that money going to come from? And there probably won't be a lot of private donors that are going to be stepping up in the near future to kind of fill that gap. And then, so obviously the alternative is the provincial government taxing people more, I guess. So I guess I would prefer to just kind of reduce the amount maybe, but I guess I'll leave it up to somebody to make a motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Is there another question for Councillor Titi? No. I don't have any questions other than we paid $14,000 in 2020? Is that correct? Okay. So should council want to continue, they could look at a different amount of money, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sobel?
Yeah, Your Worship, I'd like to make a motion on this. So, and I'm sorry, I guess I'll go to back to a question before I do that. We don't have any information in regards to the history of our contributions to STARS, I take it, other than the last 2 years.
I do not with me, correct.
Okay, Your Worship, I'll make a motion that council continue to provide financial support for STARS Air Ambulance and in the amount of $10,000 per year to STARS on behalf of the residents of Strathmore.
Thank you for that motion. Now that we have a motion on the floor, discussion on the motion? Or did you want to speak to it first since you made the motion?
I would love to, Your Worship. And so I appreciate administration's efforts to demonstrate austerity in these times. However, Section 3 of the Municipal Government Act makes it very clear that maintaining safe communities is one of my responsibilities as a councillor. I hope that there is no question as to whether STARS Air Ambulance saves lives. On average, they provide over 1,400 missions a year from their bases in Calgary, Edmonton, and Grand Prairie. Locally, and for the past 5 years, STARS has attended serious medical scenes 166 times, 29 of which was characterized as Strathmore scenes. I'll also admit that I've had a number of dealings with STARS in my former life as a peace officer with the RCMP. I took 3 facts away from those experiences. 1, STARS attends only the very worst of scenes where human life is at risk. 2, that one of the best feelings I've ever had at a traffic scene with serious injuries involved is the sound of the arrival of the STARS helicopter. And 3, the existence of STARS has in fact saved many lives. Bearing in mind my responsibility to maintaining safe communities, I have no choice but to continue to support the STARS Air Ambulance Service. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I'll go to Councillor Bauer, then Peterson, then Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's no doubt that STARS Air Ambulance provides an integral service to our community. And I know that people within this community have survived. And so we're talking about life and death here. However, I know that STARS has an incredible base of support from not only donors through their lotteries, but also private donors who have received treatment from STARS Air Ambulance, people who have bequeathed their entire estates to STARS Air Ambulance. And at this point, I think in light of a very tough economic budget for the town of Strathmore, and the fact that other communities do not support STARS Air Ambulance, and that this is not common, I think at this time, it would be best for us to look at this in the future, and at this point, put these dollars towards other uses within our community for our taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson, then Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Worship. I couldn't find recent data regarding municipalities' funding for STARS, and the most comprehensive data I could find was that in 2016, 75% of municipalities were part of the funding initiative that added up to $1.6 million, which is actually quite a small amount, and that since 2016, there had, as CA Oligor mentioned, a decline, a serious decline, a sharp decline from municipalities, and of course, this year would speak to that. I am very much in favor of the motion for the reasons that Councillor Sobel eloquently described. I had a family member who survived a near fatal accident because of stars, and while our community has been a huge beneficiary, what it does for communities on the outlying ends of our province, especially to the east, goes without saying. What I do think should happen from this council or from another council, that very definitely we should be bringing another resolution to AUMA saying that Alberta Health become the funder of STARS Air Ambulance. It is a critical part now of our healthcare system. It's something that every community in every corner of this province depends upon. And I would greatly urge one of my fellow councillors to think about bringing forward a resolution to AUMA and looking and seeking the support of our fellow municipalities and urging Alberta Health to underwrite the STARS Air Ambulance as a part of Alberta Health. It's where it should be. I truly believe that this is where it belongs. And I do know that will fall back onto taxpayers, but it will fall onto every single taxpayer in the community, and certainly will guarantee a better level of health and safety for everyone. So, Your Worship, again, I am in favor of this.
Thank you for that. Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I guess I want to thank Councillor Sobel actually for I guess going against the recommendation of administration and putting this forward. I've never had to use STARS myself, thankfully, or for any of my family members, but I feel better knowing that that's there. But I feel better knowing that that's there for our neighbors as well, and for the people around us and our residents, should they ever need something like that. And also just not even for the people in our area, but just the people across the province that do need this in dire situations. And I would hate to see it reduced, due to us redirecting funds essentially, and not even a huge amount of funds. But to Councillor Bauer's point, it is important that we pinch every penny for sure. I do agree with that. In this regard, though, I think that when it comes to health and safety, and especially in dire circumstances, I think that these are not. I personally think, anyways, these are not pennies to be pinched. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And my own opinion, I know we've heard the expression made in Strathmore a couple of times tonight, and I think we have a situation in Strathmore where we have two highways that go right through our town. They intersect, and the fact that Strathmore contributing could do a lot as far as helping to protect people on the highways, not just Strathmore residents coming and going from places, but also Wheatland County residents and Siksika residents. I think municipalities should step up more and do their part to support the STARS Air Ambulance program. So I'm highly in favor of this. I think anything we can do to contribute to keep our residents and other citizens of Alberta and this area safe, I'm all in favor of. And I know this is tough budgeting times for you, Mr. Teedy, but I'm in favor of this. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call the motion. And all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Thank you very much, you guys. I just lost my mind for a moment there. 9.4, AUMA Resolution Long-Term Care. Deborah, are you speaking to this, or is Councillor Peterson?
No, Your Worship. Councillor Peterson is bringing this forward.
Thank you. Councillor, I'm wondering if you could indulge me for maybe a 1-minute recess so I could get some water.
Yeah,
I'm finding it very hot, but that could be my age. Do I need a motion to have a quick recess, 2-minute recess?
I would move for a 5-minute, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Quick recess. Anytime you're all ready, we can start up too. Thank you.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Just a quick check-in with councillors. Are we okay to carry on? Have you had a chance to pour a good stiff drink? All right, Councillor Bauer, are you nearby your system? And we haven't heard from Councillor Corbeil yet, have we? Okay. All right, I guess we are ready, and I'm going to do my plug at the start or else I'll forget. I know it's not procedurally correct. Sorry. Okay, we're all set? Welcome back to the meeting. I appreciate your indulgence for that quick break. I had my second shot today at Siksika Nation, and my face and everything is pretty hot, so even though it's nice and cool in here, I'm roasting. So Mr. Legore, who's my personal physician, he thinks it could be a bit of a reaction to the shot, and that's a great segue because I went to Siksika Nation for my second vaccination today, and I encourage anyone at home, if you're watching or if the media is covering this, please consider Siksika Nation. It's very, very easy to book online. You can get your second dose as early as this Friday, and they are so welcoming and friendly and efficient. It was just an amazing experience, and they gave me a sticker because I was a brave little soldier. So we'll carry on with the business, and we are on AUMA resolution dealing with long-term care 9.4, and I believe Councillor Peterson is speaking to this.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here with this item on behalf of the Strathmore Seniors Advisory Committee. They have asked that these resolutions be brought forward after much deliberation and discussion. I have been asked by administration to read them into the record as motions. So, Your Worship, the AUMA resolution proposal on long-term care. I move that Council approve the following resolutions to be submitted to AUMA for consideration. Whereas hospital and physician care are covered by Medicare, long-term care and home care are not. There are long wait lists for subsidized care and inequity in our system where those who can pay more, get better access. And whereas costs borne by both the province and by the families of Alberta in caring for aging parents continue to increase and are unsustainable in the long term, and whereas the aging demographic and chronic lack of adequate housing and care solutions for seniors demands innovative solutions and the development of creative alternatives, and whereas many families, if given an opportunity, would like to provide direct in-home care for their aged parents, but need options for maintaining income levels and or standard of living. It is therefore resolved that the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association urge our provincial government to petition the Government of Canada to make long-term care and home care medically necessary services under the terms of the Canada Health Act. And if I might just briefly speak to that motion, Your Worship.
Yes.
Evidence-based research has indicated that fundamental causes of inferior deficient care and aged care, particularly residential aged care, is that individuals do not reliably get the health care they deserve and need. The causes for substandard access to health care encompass lack of funding for proactive healthcare services provided to people at their place of residence, and an unwillingness by some healthcare providers to attend a person at their residence. A lack of clarity and inconsistencies around the responsibilities of aged care and healthcare providers exists. These systemic issues are partly a result of the split in responsibilities for healthcare and aged care between federal and provincial governments. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any other discussion points from councillors at home? Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you very much. Councillor Peterson, could you elaborate just on the part about that some healthcare providers are unwilling to go to people's homes? So I guess so you would expect that if this was to pass, then those healthcare providers would then want to or would be forced to go to people's homes?
So when we're talking about proactive healthcare services, Your Worship, one of the things that happens is that healthcare provision is very inconsistent, not just in Alberta, but across our entire country. So in Alberta, we have different levels of healthcare. And certainly if you can afford it, you know, if you have wealth, then you can decide what level of care you want, and you can pursue that care according to your ability to pay. If you are dependent on other subsidized or government-funded care, then sometimes healthcare providers do not need to attend a person at their residence. They can request that they come into a facility. They can change the numbers of attendance times. There's all kinds of scenarios that can present themselves. But the lack of clarity and inconsistency around this is what the seniors are promoting in putting this resolution forward.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. If I could speak to the motion itself. So on its surface, or on its face, it certainly is easy to support. It's like, how could we not want to keep seniors in their homes, and then provide the best care possible to those people. And this is something, I guess to answer that, or to kind of reflect on that, something that I've been kind of concerned about or had on my radar for a number of years now is the aspect about just keeping seniors in their homes longer does to successive generations, essentially. There's currently a housing market that is out of reach for most young people, partly due to the fact that seniors are not moving out of their homes, and so therefore the housing market is not basically becoming looser, or the supply is not basically increasing as it has in previous generations, and then compound that with the fact that the Canadian government, in order to pay for this, would have to tax those same young people that can't even afford to get into the housing market, would have to tax those people to pay to keep the seniors in their homes longer. And so it's for me anyways, it's not an easy decision at all. And then, there's the kind of the part about, just, asking some other level of government for more money, essentially, and assuming that they can kind of come up with it. So I'm really kind of torn, I guess you could say, on what the right way to proceed on this is. And I guess I'm maybe Councillor Peterson, I would certainly be interested to hear your thoughts on this, but what are your thoughts about, an idea that occurred to me is that, the population essentially, pays to have, these people kept in their homes. And then at the time when these people pass, they're able to basically, and part of the reason, obviously, is so that these people's families are not, there isn't undue hardship on these people's families. But then, as this senior person passes on, they have this asset, that might be worth $500,000 or more, that they're able to pass on to that same family members, or those family members that weren't able or weren't willing to pay for the care of their senior parents. And I'm just wondering, I guess, has you personally, Councillor Peterson, have you given any thought to ways that we could maybe make it more equitable to the people that are paying in and versus the people that are receiving, and how to square all these issues, I guess you could say?
Yeah, Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the question you ask is complex. So I guess I would start by, first of all, addressing the levels of government and payment. So Canada Health certainly has a role to play. That's part of the issue that we're facing today. The second issue that is faced by seniors is ageism, and so I think that seniors very generally and specifically as well would be able to prove categorically, and it exists in some of the information that I've put in this document that is attached in the infographics, that they could prove categorically that it's much cheaper to the taxpayer to keep seniors in their homes than it is to keep them in extended care facilities or in aged care facilities. So there's a great deal of documentation, years of documentation around that to show that it actually saves a great deal of money. I think that seniors would look askance. I think they would look very negatively on the idea that we should move seniors to extended or aged care facilities in order that young people could be able to buy homes. I think that they would find that very, very difficult. I believe that what this request for decision is a request for seniors to be able to make decisions at all stages of their lives, including at the end of their life or in the aged part of their life, that they be able to make decisions independently. And seniors too are taxpayers. They've been taxpayers, most of them, their entire adult lives, and continue to contribute exponentially to the Canadian economy. And as they age, they continue to pay greater levels of taxes because they're working longer. So in terms of your question, I've thought about it a lot, and I do believe that choice is a critical factor in the lives of seniors today, and that they are demanding that choice, that their votes will determine that this choice will become a reality for them. And the aging population definitely in Alberta represents a growing need and concern for the care of seniors. There is an ongoing shortage of living facilities for seniors who require assisted living and support. And so that's even more important to be able to keep seniors in their homes. And private opportunities, as we've seen in our own community, is out of reach for by far the majority of the population. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Anything else, Councillor Montgomery, on her response?
Yeah, and I certainly, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I know that you have a fair amount of knowledge and information in this regard, and I was curious to get your perspective on it. One idea I had and Your Worship, if you don't mind, I just wanted to, if you don't mind me talking for a second. Is that okay?
Okay.
Oh, thank you. If we're going to be keeping people in their homes, is there any validity or merit to the idea of, we're going to be, essentially paying to care for these people in their homes? Sorry,
Councillor Montgomery, I apologize for jumping in, but I'm just, I'm wondering if we could change your wording, just because I don't want to upset people, that when you say we keep people in their homes, I think that wording is a little problematic, and I don't want to give the impression that, we're keeping them in their homes, that it is their choice if they choose to stay in their homes as long as they possibly can, That's their fundamental right and choice, and they've paid a lot of taxes over the years. So I just want to be careful we don't stray into something that's going to be a negative slant. So I just wanted to caution you there. I was a little worried about where we were going there. So
by keep people in their homes, I mean we take action to ensure that people are able to stay in their homes. Presumably if they have, healthcare costs that they can't pay for, they would have to, sell their home to, and that's my point. We're taking action, or we're proposing to take action that will allow people to, stay in their homes essentially beyond what they otherwise would be able to without this action. But in any case, I don't know. Like I said, I'm torn because it's pick your poison essentially. Do we help these people and hurt these people? Do we hurt these people and help these people? I support this resolution, and I guess I would be interested and hopeful that it would be handled judiciously by the other levels of government, and that they would endeavor to minimize the damage on anybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And once again, I apologize for interrupting. I was just a little worried about where we were headed.
That's okay. Thank you.
Councillor Sobel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just very quickly, I just want to express my appreciation to the Seniors Advisory Committee for bringing this forward. This is good work, and I know there was some assistance from administration and of course Councillor Peterson, but just the concept of bringing this forward to AUMA, I think is well worth demonstrating some appreciation, and it's a job well done. And I just want to remember that the resolution deals with making long-term care and home care medically necessary services under the terms of the Canada Health Act. One would think that should be there, in my opinion, anyway, but it's not. And I think that's what this is all about: is to even the playing field and make it equitable for everyone involved. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we're having this discussion during Seniors Week. And I think our seniors are, and have been for a very long time, backbone of our community. And we have some people that have given a lot in order to make this community stronger. And their kids, grandkids, and future generations will be coming back. And so I think it's important that we're having this discussion on long-term care, because I think it is important that we empower every community member with focus on their own individual needs and preferences. And so I thank Councillor Peterson for bringing this forward and drafting it. I realize that it's time sensitive, that we need to get it in by June 30th in order to get on to the September AUMA docket. So I would like to just let everyone know that I very much support choice for our elderly citizens to maintain their own independence and continue to have control over their own life, stay healthy in their own homes for as long as possible. And if that means that our government can give support to those people and have the same level of support by physicians and home care people, so that, I think it's proven people who stay in their homes live longer, healthier lives. And so I very much support this and look forward to a very rich discussion at AUMA. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the resolution to be submitted to AUMA. So I'll call the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you. That brings us to 9.5, AUMA Resolution Elder Care Model. And I believe Councillor Peterson, you're on this one as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate once again the opportunity to bring this forward from the Seniors Advisory Committee. I would just like to point out, before I read this into the record, There was another aspect of this that was brought forward later by a very respected member of our community, by Len Vormans, a member of the Wheatland Housing Management Body, about consideration of mandatory vaccinations for staff who work in aged care and long-term care. But my understanding is that this is coming forward from another jurisdiction. But we will do some work on that, Your Worship, just to ascertain. So with your permission, I will proceed.
Sure.
Thank you. So I move that Council approve the following resolution to be submitted to AUMA for consideration. Whereas it is the role of government to provide for the safety, health, and welfare of people, and whereas in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Government of Alberta has identified a growing crisis to maintain an acceptable level of care for our aging population, and whereas changing demographics and the population growth of Alberta's seniors significantly influence the demand for and provision of aged care, and whereas people seeking aged care should have the right to equitable access to services in accordance, have the right to exercise choice between available services, the right to freedom from degrading treatment or any form of abuse, the right to liberty, the right to autonomy, and the right to make decisions about their care, the right to fair and non-discriminatory treatment, and the right to offer opinions and make complaints. And whereas seniors in Alberta are demanding enhanced choices in the care and services they received, it is therefore resolved that the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association encourage the Government of Alberta to create and develop an elder care model in our province that will offer client-directed services focused on standards of care. And if I might speak briefly to the motion, Your Worship.
Yes, please do.
In Alberta, in 2019, people aged 65 and older represented 13% of the population. Under the median growth scenario, 1 in 5 or 20% is expected to be 65 years or older by 2046. The number of seniors is expected to be 1.2 million by 2046. So as Albertans are expected to live longer, and we are going to see many, many more seniors in our province up until 2046, we are going to have to be forward-thinking in how we focus and cope with this process. It doesn't have to be a challenge. It can also be a benefit. The coronavirus pandemic, which had particularly affected seniors, could prove to be a great opportunity to rethink the relationship that our societies have with seniors, noted Marie Legace, a professor in the Department of Communications in the Faculty of Arts. If as a society we learn the lessons from this health and social crisis, this pandemic could act as a trigger for developing a public policy that furthers the social inclusion of seniors and fights ageism. We all know about the large numbers of seniors who died in aged care facilities during the COVID crisis. Of the 2,200, around the 2,200 people that have died in Alberta, my understanding is that more than 70% were seniors. The reported figures have inadvertently stigmatized seniors who are already associated with fragility, end of life, and other vulnerabilities. So we need to ask ourselves, what value do we place on seniors in our society? The hashtag Boomer Remover, which was widely utilized on social media to highlight the horrific rates of mortality among seniors, is an example of the ageism that we need to address both overtly and systemically. And it is on that basis that the Seniors Advisory Committee of Strathmore is advocating for you to allow this motion to come forward to the AUMA. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to the Seniors Advisory Committee and Councillor Peterson for bringing this forward. Just to be clear, so is this intended to, when you say standards of care, that will be for private and public healthcare providers then?
The focus, Your Worship, on the resolution is that an elder care model be established. So it would be across the board. And so I think that we are trusting our government leadership to look into this. And certainly there are lots of fantastic examples around the world. The latest one was developed in Australia. I included that for you in the document here to reference. But there are some very, very good examples around the world of elder care models and standards of care, both in provincial systems, federal systems, and combined systems. So we're really hoping that our province will develop an elder care model in this province, and we have all kinds of ideas about what that should look like. Seniors are meeting. ASHA, which is a major representative of seniors in the province, is looking at everything from being able to choose the food you eat when you're in an aged care institution to asking government to legislate how often people in an L4D environment are seen on a daily basis, how many minutes per day. So an elder care model can look at many different things, but we are looking at standardized care across the province, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for answering that question.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would just like to thank Council for and administration for the time that I've taken tonight, and I'd really like to give my thanks to Deb Hammerlick for the amount of time that she put into this. I'm really appreciative.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? And that motion carries. That brings us to item 10, 10.1, reports from councillors from committees in which they sit. Any reports tonight?
Your Worship.
Councillor Peterson?
I don't have a report. I should have had a report. There should have been minutes. I missed them, but I assure you they'll be in the next meeting minutes from the Wheatland Housing. A letter did go out from Wheatland Housing to Council on some updates, but we'll make sure that they get to the public in the next meeting. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And that brings us to 11 items directly related to Council. 11.1, addressing racism and discrimination in sports facilities. Councillor Sobel?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This is pursuant to a notice of motion that I previously had before Council, and my motion is that Council direct administration to develop an amendment to the Community Standards Bylaw number 13-05 to add provisions that address expected behavior of members of the public in regards to unjust and prejudicial treatment in town-owned facilities, complete with suitable penalties and consequences for violating the provisions. And if I could speak to that, Your Worship.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. So this came about as a result of a subcommittee that I'm a member of with Siksika Nation and the town of Strathmore. And it has to do basically with racism and discrimination in sports in general. And the concept I had was that before we can try to solve anybody else's issue, we better make sure that our own backyard is clean. And in my investigation and in administration's investigation, it was revealed that the only rules that we have in place at this time fall under the respectful workplace policy, and that, to be quite honest with you, that policy lacks any teeth, any penalty, and it also very, very much is focused on the workplace employees. As such, my request tonight and my motion deals with having this having an anti-racism policy and anti-discriminatory policy placed in our Community Standards Bylaw number 13-05, and that's my request that council, that administration look into that and come back to council with something appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Are you putting forward your motion then now? Or He did?
That was my motion. Yes, I read it.
Okay, I apologize, but maybe this fever is hitting me because I honestly don't remember that. All right, thank you. So I'm hoping we have a motion on the floor. Councillor Bauer, did you want to add a comment?
Are you asking if I can speak, Your Worship?
Yes. Would you like to speak?
Okay. I'm sorry. My sound is cutting in and out. I'm having trouble hearing you.
It could be
so
me.
Councillor Sobel, I just want to thank you for bringing this forward. However, I do have some questions. It does say that you hope that administration would come back with suitable penalties and consequences for violating the provisions. Being an educator, one of the best things I know to make a difference is the culture of a community. And I think the first step to promoting a positive culture in our community is by modeling. And right now, we don't have signs that say that we don't support this. We have not let the public know that we have had these talks and that this is a problem. And I think that there are other ways that we can educate and get acceptance from our community without imposing penalties and consequences. And I can't support something that goes directly to like the strong hand or the hammer on people for what I do agree is despicable behavior. So I do not in any way want to say that I condone this. But what I do think is that rather than having bylaws that fine people and have bylaws spend time, which, you know, if there is a real racially motivated problem that happens on a sports field or in one of our arenas, the RCMP will be called. They will be involved in that type of dispute. And so I think that there are other ways that we can handle this. And so at this point with this motion, I will not be able to support it, but I would support if you came back and talked about educating the public, developing 7 rules or guidelines or of what we do believe is respectful treatment and how we should act towards each other, and starting to put out those positive messages, maybe even putting out highway signs in addition to our billboards right now, and starting to say the same message over and over again so that the community is aware and get them on our side. I don't think the town coming in and providing penalties and consequences is quite where we should be at. So that's just my point, and I'd love to hear your response. Thank you.
Thank you.
I may, Your Worship?
Yep, Councillor Sobel, and then I'll go to Councillor.
I'd love to respond to this. I get the sense that you're focused on a few words from this motion. There's also a very important part of this motion which says to add provisions that address expected behavior of the members of the public in regards to unjust and prejudicial treatment. So it's a pretty wide open statement, and it involves signage and education, and these are all things that I'm expecting administration to come back. The complete with suitable penalties. Yes, I think you need something in a bylaw that says you have to comply with this, or else there's going to be consequences. That's not the focus of this. That's not the focus of this amendment to the bylaw. The focus is education, signage, expectations, expected behavior. Thank you.
Does that help, Councillor Bauer? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Thank you, Councillor Bauer. We'll go to Councillor Montgomery now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sobel, one question I have for you is when we talk about race, color, ancestry, place of origin, religious beliefs, gender identity, gender expression, age, physical disability, all these things, those are already protected by the Alberta Human Rights Code, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what was the logic for duplicating a superior set of legislation, essentially?
Well, it's something that I think we require locally to deal with, including from staff members. So because it's Alberta Human Rights, I mean, that's a provincial investigation. You got to call the RCMP, but some of the responses that we can have as a town is in regards to signage, is in regards to perhaps banning somebody from our facilities if they are overtly prejudicial in a certain circumstance. I'm not trying to take over the Alberta Human Rights Act, but it's a complicated act, and it's a long complicated investigation that's going to entail. And not to say that that's not going to happen, but there's more immediate things that have to be done. Alberta Human Rights Act does not tell us to put signs up that says you cannot be racist in our facilities. And this is, I think this is something that's important. We have nothing. We have nothing that says you can't do this, that we as a municipality are not going to accept that. And it's a high time, I think, as a municipality that we do step up and say, no, we're not going to handle this. Yes, there is Alberta Human Rights Act, and if you want to go that route, we can. But we also have a part to play in this.
And what made you stop at just facilities? Why not make it town-wide?
As I said in the beginning of my comments, I think first we have to deal with our own facilities, which are lacking terribly. So let's get that in place, and then along with other members of the sports subdivision or subcommittee for that we are in talks with Siksika. I mean, this is something that we want to move over to Siksika as well. These are baby steps, and it's first steps. And as I said, the first step I think we have to do is clean up our own house.
Okay, thank you very much for those answers. I similar to the previous discussion, I guess, it seems like it's easy to support on its face. Who wouldn't want to, stop people from harassing each other and insulting each other and whatnot. I don't know that somebody making a joke about somebody should necessarily mean that our bylaw should be called out, or that our bylaw, that the bylaw should have to investigate and then possibly, lay some sort of a ticket or a charge. And then have to, if that goes to court, then the town has to spend money essentially just to pursue something that, if it's egregious enough, I believe that the province already has a system in place to deal with egregious instances of harassment or other violations of the Alberta Human Rights Code. And I in the same way that I don't really see the point of having a bylaw against murder. It's something that's against the law, and we have the system in place to investigate it. It strikes me as unnecessary. I think it's coming from a good place. I don't think, and actually, an alternative that even might be better is just that. I don't like the idea of basically us having to spend money to investigate somebody and possibly lay a ticket, and then have to possibly fight to make that ticket stick. We could very easily just make a rule, a policy, not a bylaw, but a policy that says that any sports teams or sports leagues that use our facilities would have to agree to abide by certain conduct. And then just you could also make it a rule that If by purchasing, a pass, you're agreeing to abide by certain rules. And then, if somebody is harassing somebody, we should certainly kick them out and possibly ban them, if it's that big of a problem. And then if it's egregious enough and there's witnesses or there's some sort of record, then that could be brought to the Human Rights Council and investigated by them at their dime as well. So for those reasons, I can't support this particular motion. But as I said, I like the idea of it. And I think there's probably other ways to accomplish the same goal. Thank you.
Just before we go on,
Your Worship, you say what you wish, and then I'd like to just respond if I could.
Sure. We just need a motion to extend the meeting.
We have a motion on the table right now.
Okay, sorry. We do have a motion on the table. So right after this, we'll have to have a motion to extend. Councillor Sobel?
Just very quickly, one of the values of having a bylaw on this is to allow bylaw services to be involved on a provincial matter. They can. It's an RCMP matter. So there is some ease to that. But I just want to remind council that we're not talking about a bylaw. We haven't gotten the bylaw yet. It's kind of hard to criticize a bylaw when we haven't seen it. This motion is only asking administration to prepare something. So I think most of this conversation that we're having is better suited to having after we've seen the bylaw. My opinion only. But I don't know what this bylaw is going to look like. All we've done is give the parameters as to what we're looking to see, and what comes back from administration. I'm sure we'll have some very good discussions as to what we should have or what we shouldn't have. Thank you.
Thank you. And just before I go to Councillor Bauer, having taught high school for 34 years here in Strathmore, I have discovered quite easily that if you don't have teeth in your policies, attendance was always one of our biggest concerns at Strathmore High. And if you don't have some teeth in your policies with some sort of repercussions or consequences, goodwill doesn't go very far. So I think that this bylaw, whenever it comes to us for consideration, will be something that will send a message out. And obviously our Siksika councillors and friends and neighbors from the nation are looking for something strong from Strathmore. And I absolutely believe Councillor Breaker in all his conversations and efforts, he wants to do the same thing on their nation as well, so that it's a mutual thing. But I'll go to Councillor Bauer now.
Thank you, Worship. I would much prefer a policy over a bylaw. I don't think having our administration work independently, and I wish that it was in here that it said that we would work with our minority groups within the town to provide a list of expected behavior. And I do understand that, we have a COVID or a mask bylaw as well. And we had a number of different discussions that talked about education with the mask bylaw, but I received calls last week from members of the community saying that our bylaw officers were standing in the office of the Walmart waiting for people who were not wearing masks coming in, and then approaching them and being very, very confrontational. And I wouldn't want to see our bylaw officers having to enforce this, or even be in the building and put extra resources towards, patrolling this type of thing, and perhaps even making it worse than it actually is. And so I would, again, just state that if this was massaged and, maybe turned into a policy where we could consult community groups. We already have an MOU with Siksika, but I understand, there's more problems than just racism with our Aboriginal population in this town. And I think blanket policies or education that targets specific behavior will not be tolerated. would be a better message rather than consequences and penalties and having our bylaw officers tied up and feeling like they have one more thing to police in this town. And so, again, I just can't support this. I'm sorry, Councillor Sobel. I support it in its intent, but I don't think these particular words and the structure of this particular motion is something that I can support. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take a quick moment. I think we need to be careful. I'd like to defend our staff and our bylaw officers. We're hearing one side of a potential issue that might have happened in a box store. I would hate for us to just go and assume that our bylaw officers are laying in wait, and because someone in the community has said that they're laying in wait and have been very confrontational. There's two sides to issues, and I think we need to be careful to make sure we're not judging our staff and our bylaw officers based on one side of an issue that we've heard. So I do worry about that. So Councillor Montgomery, and then Councillor Sobel, and then Councillor Peterson. Sorry.
Thank you. And just and just I found it interesting, Councillor Bauer, that you used the word racism will not be tolerated as something positive to a message. But what does that mean? So what happens? What do you mean when you say will not be tolerated? What are the ramifications? I mean, if it's not going to be tolerated, then there has to be some ramifications, because if it happens, how do you show that it's not tolerated? And that's what this bylaw is for. That's exactly what this, sorry, go ahead.
Racism is not to be tolerated. If you feel that you have been targeted, could you please call this number and then report it? And then, so that we get a data bank and we start talking to people about what these issues are. But I just, yes, I do not think it should be tolerated. And I think when we start saying those messages, it empowers people, it empowers others to say, yeah, you're right. This shouldn't be tolerated, and I'm going to stand up for it too. And a lot of times, instead of going to the enforcement mode, you can, through social cues and through, a group of people being together, you can quiet something like that down if it's happening pretty quickly. You don't always have to resort to, fines and penalties and other things. I think that there are many ways to extinguish this type of behavior.
Thank you. I'll just respectfully disagree. Thank you.
Mr. Legore would like to make a comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, pursuant to Section 83.A of the Procedures Bylaw, you must have a motion to extend this meeting or you're considered adjourned. All unfinished business will carry over to the next meeting. So we need to extend the meeting. Thank you.
So we do have to have a motion to extend the meeting.
Point of order. I have a question. The last time I read our extended meeting and how long our meetings would go, it said till 11. So I'm curious as to know why we're having to do this motion and interrupt now when we could go another hour and a half.
I thought we had something in our policies that talked about not going past a certain time, and if we
because we just approved a motion for our meetings a couple meetings ago, and in that package it said that our meetings can go till 11.
Okay, I think they're checking now.
Can someone from a
They're checking right now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the copy of the Procedures Bylaw I have before me, it says a regular meeting shall adjourn at 9:30 p.m. If in session at that time, council may, by a 2/3 vote, taken before 9:30 p.m., extend the meeting by 1 hour. And that has been our practice over the past year at least. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Does that clarify things for you, Councillor Bauer?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Councillor Montgomery?
If Councillor Sobel could withdraw his motion quickly, I could make that motion to extend the meeting. And then he could remake his motion.
why don't we just vote on this? I call the vote, Your Worship.
No, I want to talk. Can't we just suspend it and then make the motion and then come back to it? Yeah. So I would just move to suspend the motion, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to suspend the motion for now. All in favor? Okay.
I'll move we extend the meeting till 10:30.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to extend the meeting to 10:30. All in favor? And now, a motion to bring back the motion from the suspension?
Yes.
This is new.
So move.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. So we have the motion on the floor. Has everyone spoken twice on the motion?
I haven't spoken at all yet.
Councillor Peterson hasn't spoken at all yet. And then we'll go to Councillor Peterson.
I think
Montgomery.
somebody was in the midst of speaking though, weren't they? Okay, all right.
Councillor Sobel made a motion to unsuspend. I don't think we voted on that, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We had a motion to bring it back. Did we vote on that, Deborah? We did not vote on that. So we have a motion to bring back Councillor Sobel's motion. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm really drawn to this whole idea that this exists before us because we have an anti-racism committee. And I want to go back to one of the things that was said at one of those early anti-racism committees by a Siksika member. She quoted Angela Davis, I believe, and she said, it's not enough to be non-racist, we have to be anti-racist. And when we have to be anti-racist, that suggests to me that we have to take action. And so action in terms of education is only one part of this. And Councillor Sobel talked about giving power to our bylaw and peace officers to act in this. And so I feel extremely passionate about this. In the same way I feel passionate about a ban on conversion therapy coming forward, where we're proposing a $10,000 fine. I feel exactly the same about this. I worked beside the people of Siksika for more than 3 decades. We have a son who's from African descent. We have 8 mixed-race grandchildren. I can tell you that in absolutely no way, shape, or form is racism benign. It always causes huge, huge hurt. It causes destruction. In my work on Siksika, I saw it cause suicide. I saw it cause immense pain. So when action is taken against racist activity, according to the judgment of the bylaw and peace officers that we hire to do that job, I'm very much in favor of that. There was a poster on my son's wall growing up, and it says it's from Ibrahim Kende, and it said, time and time again, racist ideas have not been cooked up from the boiling pot of ignorance and hate. Time and again, powerful and brilliant men and women have produced racist ideas in order to justify the racist policies of their era, in order to redirect the blame for their racial disparities away from the policies and onto the BIPOC population. And so when we are not prepared to act to the fullest of our capacity to protect people, just as in a $10,000 fine for someone who wants to perpetrate harm on a child, then we are not acting in an anti-racist way. We are simply being non-racist, and it's not good enough. And if anything has shown us that, this past week should have. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Montgomery.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree with the sentiment for sure. I believe that government should be slow and should be very judicious with its power. It should not, if you look at the way courts are supposed to operate, it's better to let 1,000 guilty men go free than to convict one innocent person. And so the residential schools were not built based on a lack of legislation. They were built based on legislation that at the time was purported to be with good intention. And I have grave concerns about government, and when government decides that it has good intention, or the people in government decide they have good intentions, and they decide that like it's their, that they need to force their view or their will on people. This is how we end up with a situation like we did. And I'm not going to say too much more tonight because, as Councillor Silva pointed out, this is, it's intended to come back for more discussion. That's all I'll say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that's a good point, is that if this motion passes, we're merely directing administration to develop an amendment, and then it'll come back to us. So I think everyone has spoken twice. I'll call the motion. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? And the motion is carried. That brings us to bylaws. 12.1, bylaw number 21-17, land use bylaw amendment, the ranch phase 5 redesignation. Good evening and welcome, Megan. Nice to see you.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Just bear with me here. So the package starts on page 32, or the report does, and I'm going to scooch down to page 40 so we can see the map. There we go. Mask off. Okay. Ooh. Good morning, Your Worship and Council. I'm here to present first reading of bylaw 21-17, affecting parcel southeast of 1424-25 west of the 4th, and to request a date for the public hearing of said bylaw. The ranch developer has initiated phase 5 of their development, which includes this redesignation request and a subdivision. Administration has received the subdivision application, and their proposal is under review at this time. As indicated earlier, the map outlining their redesignation proposal is on page 40. The subdivision application includes lots narrower than 11 meters, which is the minimum width for lots within the R1N, single detached residential narrow lot district. To accommodate the narrower lots, the developer is requesting to redesignate portions of phase 5 and future phases to the R2 district. This will restrict the development on these parcels to semi-detached dwellings. They're also requesting some minor changes to the land around the future 100, 200, and 300 Ranch Place cul-de-sacs, and that's just on the north side of their proposed development there. The redesignation for this area is being proposed to accommodate the town's maintenance equipment that will be used to maintain the future municipal reserve parcel behind the aforementioned cul-de-sacs. There's one correction I do need to make into the report. While there is a total of 4.15 acres being redesignated to the R2 district, only 3.93 acres are currently R1N. The other 0.22 acres are currently the P1 Public Service District, and the final pieces of land being redesignated include 0.03 acres from P1 to R1N and 0.02 from R1N to P1. Administration is recommending that Council give first reading to bylaw 21-17, land use bylaw amendment bylaw to Ranch Phase 5, the Ranch Phase 5 redesignation, and that a public hearing be scheduled for July 7th, 2021. That does conclude my presentation, and I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions for Megan? Councillor Peterson?
No, I have no questions.
Thank you. You want to make a motion?
I would make the motion.
I would love that.
So I would move that Council give first reading to bylaw 21-17, land use bylaw amendment, the Ranch Phase 5 redesignation. Can I make the second part of that motion together? And that Council schedule a public hearing for bylaw number 21-17 for July 7, 2021. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. I'll call the motion. Just have to... That's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. Don't worry. We'll be good.
Can I ask a question?
I don't think there's questions on first reading. It's just.
Well, I had my hand up before the motion was made. I wanted to ask this question before it's a procedural question, essentially.
A procedural question.
Well, for administration.
Okay.
I'm just wondering procedurally, what happens in an instance like this if, let's say, this doesn't pass, 3 readings? What would be the situation that would transpire in this particular instance?
I would imagine. Megan, do you want to answer that?
I can, if that's all right, Your Worship. So if the bylaw doesn't pass, what will happen is that I will assume that they'll still want to continue with their subdivision. They'll just have to change the layout.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor for first reading and then the public hearing. I'll call the question. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Megan. That brings us to item 12.2, bylaw number 21-04, Municipal Solid Waste Services on page 41. Ethan, welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. I bring forward tonight bylaw 21-04, Municipal Solid Waste Services for first, second, and third reading, I'm hoping. This bylaw was reviewed and revised upon Council's direction and has been updated in a manner which provides for effective enforcement, a promotion of recycling and sustainability, and allows for flexibility of operations. A change in title was also completed as the previous waste management bylaw brings an inadvertent confusion with the town's operator. Administration sees a bylaw 2104 as a much needed improvement to the existing bylaw, which is now more concise and applicable to the services provided today. Happy to answer any questions when it's time.
Thank you, Ethan. Do we have any questions for Ethan on this? Councillor Montgomery?
Yeah, I have quite a few questions actually. Should I make a motion to put this into the committee of the whole, perhaps?
Okay. So you have questions. How many questions do you have? I'm just curious now.
I'd say probably a dozen to 15, probably.
A dozen to 15. Okay.
And I also found a few errors within the bylaw, so I could send those to administration and they could review those as well.
Sorry, Ethan, is there a time constraint on this or anything?
Your
Could
Worship,
some of the questions come via email through administration, through Mr.
Your Worship,
Legore?
I'm happy to answer questions tonight or at whatever process Council desires.
Okay. Questions, Councillor Montgomery? Councillor Sowell, you have a comment? You're muted. You're muted.
Should we get to second reading, maybe?
That would be good.
So I'm prepared to make a first read to give first reading to this bylaw, Your Worship.
Thank you.
I move that Council give first reading to bylaw number 21-04, Municipal Solid Waste Services.
Thank you. We have a motion for first reading. All in favor? The motion is carried. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I would move that Council give second reading to bylaw number 21-04, Municipal Solid Waste Services.
Thank you. Now we have a motion for second reading. We can have discussion and questions. And I suppose, Councillor Montgomery, if you have, oh, that's good. You go ahead, start.
Well, I don't mind sending these to administration, and then they could perhaps. But if you want to take the time tonight, I guess I could get into it tonight. I'll leave it up to you.
Well, I'm thinking if some of the questions can be dealt with via email through Mr. Legore, that could be an easy way to do this since you're not under a time restraint to get this done tonight. And I know we have, Councillor Peterson, I understand we have heavy agendas coming, but if those questions are answered via email, we should be able to blow through this quite quickly the next time we assemble. Does that sound amenable to everyone?
Some of them will have to be discussed by council, obviously, but some of them I believe could just be answered by administration. And I apologize to administration for not getting these to them sooner. I had other stuff I had to take care of.
Thank you. So we have a motion for second reading. Then do we need a motion then to defer this and or withdraw the second reading motion?
To you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Deborah. I would recommend that you move to defer second reading and put a specific date, if you would, please.
Thank you. Ethan, to you, would June 16th be a good enough date for you?
Your worship, that date would work just fine.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Montgomery, would you want to make a motion then to defer this, defer second reading? You would have to withdraw. Councillor Peterson would have to withdraw her motion.
Your worship, I ask for council's discretion in being allowed to remove my motion on second reading.
Thank you. So we have the motion, we've removed the second reading motion. Councillor Montgomery, would you like to make a motion then to defer this to the June 16th meeting?
Yeah, thank you very much. I will move that council instruct administration to bring back the municipal solid waste services bylaw for June 16th, please.
Thank you very much. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Ethan. And I appreciate your time tonight and your patience. And I know you work hard on these, and it's a long time to sit here and wait, but I think we'll get the answers outside of the meeting, and then it'll make it efficient on the 16th of June for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to 12.3, ATCO Gas Natural Gas Franchise Agreement Renewal, page 75. Jim Simpson. Good evening, Jim. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to council. I'm here tonight to present our natural gas franchise agreement bylaw for second and third reading. As you recall, I presented at a previous meeting and got first reading. We were then waiting for approval from the Alberta Utilities Commission, which we anticipated would take some time. However, the AUC responded on May 11th and they've approved it. We advertised this in the local paper for 2 weeks. We had to do that and then advise ATCO and AUC that we received no response to the advertisement, no concerns either for or against. And so I bring it here tonight. It's ready for final approval to give it second and third reading at this meeting.
Thank you, Jim. Councillor Peterson?
Your worship, I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 21-14, natural gas franchise agreement renewal.
Thank you. We have a motion for second reading. Is there discussion on that motion? Councillor Bauer and then Councillor Montgomery.
No, I was going to make a motion, your worship.
Okay, thank you. I can come back to you for the next one should this go through. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions for administration, please. The first one is that, and some of the public might be aware, but we adjust franchise fees. We've adjusted them, the last few years upwards. And one of the reasons for that is because there are some untaxable properties in town, institutions such as the courthouse or the hospital, et cetera. And by having these franchise fees, we're able to collect some revenue from those untaxable entities. My first question for administration is, do we not get any sort of compensation from the province, kind of in lieu of property taxes almost, for any of those, like for the courthouse or something like that? We don't get any sort of money from the province for that?
Mr. Simpson?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is not a fee to cover taxes on the courthouses or the schools or hospitals or anything. This is a separate thing. This is a fee that we charge a utility company to have exclusive rights to provide their product or service to the residents of Strathmore. They also have the right to use our right-of-ways, again, applying through the proper steps to get permission to cross or go through or under our roads as well.
Yeah, thank you. What I'm referring to is like is in years past we've been told that because we can't tax those properties, that having these increased franchise fees is a way to still collect revenue because those properties use utilities. And obviously, yes, what you're saying is true that we charge these fees to the utility provider, but they turn around essentially and just put it on the bills of the utility payers. And I guess I just wanted clarification that we don't in fact receive any money from the province, for instance, for having the courthouse. There's no transfer payments or anything like that are made from the province for the courthouse.
I'll give my best shot at this. I know in the past, and I honestly can't speak of how it is today, but I know in the past, the province used to give what they called grants in lieu. And it would be, they'd give us a grant in lieu of having these facilities located in your town, because they're not taxable. And I believe, the province, from what I can recall, they eliminated that grants in lieu. And I'm not, maybe Mr. Logor can help us, but I do not believe we get any money for these facilities now. They pay frontage tax, they pay some things, but not a property tax.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the grant in lieu of property taxes program was eliminated, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. And we no longer receive anything for provincial properties.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, I saw some reference to a grant in lieu recently, actually, and that's why I was kind of wondering. And my other question is, I guess I noticed in the list of franchise fees, compared to other municipalities, ours is one of the only ones that's maxed out, essentially. I want to say how soon or what are the odds we can kind of back that off. But I recognize that in order to do that, we'd have to raise taxes. So I guess I'm just I'll just make a statement that I'm hoping at some point we can reduce the franchise fees. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor for second reading concerning the natural gas franchise agreement. I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. And I'm looking to Councillor Bauer. I think you wanted to make a motion before.
Yes. I do not have the motion in front of me, Your Worship.
This would be for third and final
reading. I was just looking at I could make a motion for third reading.
Third and final reading to bylaw number 21. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but 21-14. I am putting words in your mouth. Are you comfortable?
I'm sorry, I just changed.
Are you comfortable making the motion if you don't have it right in front of you? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No.
Okay, Councillor Montgomery.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you. I believe what Councillor Bauer was going to say is I move that Council give third and final reading to bylaw number 21-14, natural gas franchise agreement renewal.
Thank you. We have that motion for third and final reading. I'll call the question. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Simpson. I don't believe we have any urgent business tonight, which brings us to 14 questions between councillors and council statements. Anything from council? Seeing none, that brings us to administrative inquiries. 15.1, I believe we have a response there. You've seen it regarding the public bulletin board. Did you want to speak to this, Donna? Thank you. Welcome back.
Administration was asked to come back. We pulled this presentation last time just because the vault wasn't really in support of the bulletin board. So administration did meet with the board of directors, and we do still have mixed support over the bulletin board. We would still like to put the bulletin board outside of the vault. Instead of attaching it to the wall, what we would like to do is attach it to the sidewalk, give it a trial period of 1 to 2 years. If it becomes unsightly or the vault just feels that they just really don't want it there, then we can definitely look at a different location for it. And sorry, I did also like to mention, I did also put in there a third location for council to consider. We do own a property at 3rd Avenue and 3rd Street, which is a parking lot, but it's not really easily accessible to different mobilities. So we didn't feel that that was really the best location. Because 2nd Avenue and 2nd Street is a busy street and gets a lot of foot traffic. There's handicap parking there, so anybody who does have mobility issues can still access the bulletin board. We do feel that this is the best location to put the board.
Thank you. And in your discussions and planning, did you ever consider Councillor Peterson's front lawn?
Pretty close. A lot of people hang out.
Okay, well, keep that in mind.
But if she would like it there, we certainly could do that.
Mr. Simpson.
Mr. Mayor, also just to add to what Donna just said, the administration will be monitoring the bulletin board virtually on a daily basis or every second day. So we want to keep it neat and tidy and look respectable. As Donna said, there's been about 4 or 5 of us involved in this discussion, and every one of us feel that that is the best location to keep it sort of in the central of downtown.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson, no? Any questions? Councillor Sobel, then Councillor Montgomery.
You're muted.
I got it this time. Could I inquire as to what the concerns of the vault board is?
I think one of the concerns they did have was that they would have to take care of the board. I know they also had concerns that the handicap parking would always be taken up from people accessing the board as well. But most people, just from what I've seen when it was located in the parking lot here, is most people, it was pretty quick. They would get out, look, and jump back in their vehicles or post what they needed to post, that they weren't parked there for hours taking up the spot. I think that was about it that they had.
So just to clarify then, do I understand this correctly, that the board or the vault would not be responsible for this?
That is correct. We will be responsible for it. We will monitor. We're going to have some set rules for it, so people have to timestamp it, put a name on it. We'll give them a time limit of how long things should be on there before they are removed, and we'll make sure it gets cleaned up and it doesn't accumulate bunches of paper that blow away and that sort of thing. Pardon me? It is on town property, yeah.
Okay, and last question, would the bulletin board, would this board have to be in front of the handicap spot? And I'm trying to think of that area now. Is it possible to move it to a place that's not, I appreciate they're going to use it anyway, but at least it wouldn't be in front of it?
I think the best location was on the side of the building. I don't want to take away from the frontage of the building. I feel
sorry, I know on the side, it would be on the side, but further north, no, that wouldn't work. Like towards the laneway.
Yeah, there is I could look at it and see
if
it is possible to move it a little bit down, absolutely, but still.
I'll leave it in your hands.
Okay.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Sobel. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Donna, and to your staff for working on this. I like the location. That's a well-traveled intersection. I thought about the idea of maybe putting it across the street, like at the old Royal Bank or something like that on the east side. The other idea I had, since the town's getting into resuming its curating of a bulletin board, and in light of the fact that, we're kind of a fairly digital community, would the town consider operating let's say, digital bulletin board, meaning like, let's say on Facebook where it'd be curated. And that would obviously be something that the comms department would have to take on. But, because, I like the idea of a bulletin board, obviously, but I think, just people are moving in kind of in a digital direction. And what are your thoughts?
I sort of like the idea. I think, though, if maybe this is an idea for somebody on Facebook to start a group that would allow for advertising of various like garage sales or whichever, right? I'm not sure if it's something that the town would do for the public, though. Something we can look into, though, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously it's already being done, a few different ways in the town of Strathmore by private, by private residents. I just thought since you'd be curating this one, but that's fine. Like I said, it's already being done. So thank you very much, and thank you for your work on this, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you to the resident as well who brought this forward.
Thank you for all your efforts on this. And I just want to point out again that Councillor Peterson doesn't have any parking restrictions at her house. So, feel free to, that's right. Well, feel free to slap up something there.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks. Thank you for all your work.
No,
thank you for all your work. All right, that brings us to 15.2 Administrative Inquiry, Councillor Montgomery concerning Park Lane Drive.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will read Councillor Montgomery's inquiry. I'm looking for information on the current and future plans for Park Lane Drive from George Freeman Trail to Thomas Drive. I'm curious to know what the town has on file for the undeveloped residential area south of Park Lane Drive as far as connecting that area to a collector road. Will this area be connected to Park Lane Drive? Also, what does the Transportation Master Plan study have to say about the future of that roadway? Example, volumes, traffic calming. I also have a second admin inquiry from Councillor Montgomery regarding the fire department. Can administration please provide a breakdown of the 352 calls that were responded to by the Strathmore Fire Department last year? How many were from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.? How many were service calls, other types of calls, house, fire, commercial, motor vehicle, etc.? The location of the responses, how many were in town versus out of town? Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And at this point, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Peterson?
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?